Democrats were willing to take something off the table for. Planned Parenthood or something off the table for it. But they didn't.
It's embarrassing.
No,
That's
listen,
what I said.
I agree with you.
For the Democrats.
I don't think it is. I think it's more embarrassing for the Freedom Caucus, and they've been all over talking about how terrible this. Jim Jordan was on saying this is the worst thing.
Caucus?
Well, for Republicans who have promised to be fiscal hawks, for Republicans who have promised.
They all voted against it.
No, but the Republican Party, like you led with, they are not the party of fiscal responsibility.
That's like saying, oh, I feel really bad for the 3 people in the room who couldn't do what the 10 people could.
Well, I wasn't done saying how many people it's embarrassing for. I just led with the Freedom Caucus.
You led with the wrong end of the spectrum. The blame lies with Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and leadership who are cutting these deals with Democrats in order to get them passed. The reality with Democrats is, is that they love the wall more than they hate the wall more than they love Dreamers. That's what it comes down to. They hate what Trump is trying to do more than they love finding that pathway, and President Trump is calling their bluff on that. I hope he looks into vetoing it for real.
They got everything they wanted, and then the next question is, what about the?
Can I put this in here since we have a former military member on the couch with us? So we learned a short time ago that Defense Secretary Mattis was calling the president about the possibility of losing all the defense increases if he blows up the omnibus with a veto. So that conversation, a senior Hill source told Fox News, is going to flatline defense if he's not careful. Your thoughts?
I understand that viewpoint, because if you're at the Pentagon and you starved for 8 years under Barack Obama and you saw your military be decimated, and now you have a chance to return back to a place where it's sufficiently funded, you don't want to lose that grasp. But I do think this president, if he puts the screws to Republican leadership, can get a better deal that still funds the DOD, and it might take veto threats or a shutdown to do so.
Can I talk to you about the Dow for a second?
Yeah.
Because if you thought anybody wasn't watching this or Facebook or Uber or some of the things that have hit the Dow this week, you'd be really mistaken by that. The investors are looking at this. And look at where it is today. It's come back some, but it really shed some percentage yesterday.
I will point this out, though. So the futures were all over the place before the market opened at 9:30 this morning. But when this Trump tweet about a possible veto of this spending bill came out, the futures were down roughly as much as the Dow is right now. So there was no market impact. So a government shutdown, you know what investors do? Maybe that's a good thing. It's certainly it's not horrible. And I'll point this out. Democrats and Republicans both like doing one thing, and this is what is not just swampy, but swamptastic. That was the word I used.
Spending our money. They both love to do that.
They love spending other people's money, and there is no financial restraint whatsoever. And right now, about 2/3 of our annual budget in this country goes to personal outlays: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and food stamps. That's where all the money is going. Until any of these men and women stand up and start talking about fixing.
Why aren't they talking about that?
Because it loses them votes, and they're gutless. All of them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. And Jessica's silent. So this is a bipartisan thing to you.
Cutting entitlements, absolutely. I mean, President Trump was the only Republican candidate out there talking about making sure that he was going to preserve them, because he was smart enough to know you can't win an election if you take away an entitlement. So Paul Ryan gets up there and he says, I'm going to cut, and he's never going to cut. He's going to sign that bill.
They automatically start disappearing because Medicare is going broke in 11 years. 88 cents on the dollar is what the hospital fund will be able to pay out in about a decade.
Well, I can tell you who's disappearing. I mean, the House is adjourned. You've got
you're right.
Congress scattering. You do have the Slaughter funeral that many are getting to today. But if the president vetoes this, the government shuts down. And they come back at 4 p.m. on Monday, and they can pick it up then. We'll see what the president does. More fallout from that massive Facebook data scandal. Now CEO Mark Zuckerberg is reportedly being formally invited to testify before Congress as the backlash over the tech giant's response to the crisis just keeps growing. And the White House announcing UN Ambassador John Bolton is in, and H.R. McMaster is out as National Security Advisor. How the new hire will affect dealings with hotspots like North Korea and Iran. We'll talk about it. Stay close. Happy Friday.
This is a man who takes into consideration everybody's different inputs and ideas, and that makes him a wonderful leader and a terrific boss.
This program is brought to you by Honda. Great deals are waiting for you now at your local Honda dealer.
This is the doorway to your dreams. Better known as the Honda Dream Garage Spring Event. And through it, you can open new doors to the outdoors
with a deal on a Honda Pilot. Oh, look, here's one.
It's got room for up to 8. The interior's incredibly roomy. Don't mind if I do.
The Honda Dream Garage Spring Event is on now. Get a great deal on the Pilot, a KBB.com Best Buy for 2018.
Patrick woke up with a sore back, but he's got work to do. So he took a leave this morning. If he'd taken Tylenol, he'd be stopping for more pills right now. Only Aleve has the strength to stop tough pain for up to 12 hours with just one pill. Tylenol can't do that. Aleve. All day strong, all day long. Check this Sunday's paper for extra savings on products from Aleve.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need cash? You need to know about the New Day 100 Home Loan for Veterans. It lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value, not just 80%. And that can mean a lot more money for you and your family. With our military service, veterans like us have earned a valuable VA benefit, the right to apply for a VA home loan. The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consolidate your credit card debt, put cash in the bank, and lower your payments an average of $600 a month. And New Day will even pay for your appraisal fee. That could save you up to $500 or more. So call New Day USA. They look at your whole financial picture, not just your credit score. And they'll do everything they possibly can to get you approved. Call them today and get the financial peace of mind every veteran deserves.
Go to NewDayUSA.com or call 1-844-383-1535.
Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh ham has no added nitrates, or artificial preservatives. Now, Deli Fresh flavor is for everyone, like those who like sweet, those who prefer heat, and those who just love meat. Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh, a fresh way to deli.
All right, I brought in high protein to help get us moving and help you feel more strength and energy in just 2 weeks. I'll take that.
Ensure High Protein with 16 grams of protein and 4 grams of sugar. Ensure, always be you.
How would you describe the perfect dinner? It's perfectly fresh, perfectly measured, perfectly seasoned. That's why Plated is perfect for you. Unforgettable dinners you can cook at home week after week. Go to plated.com/order and get 25% off your first 4 weeks. You'll get hand-picked, pre-portioned ingredients delivered to your door. Everything you need is in your Plated box. Dinners start at $9.95 per serving, and delivery's free on select plans. Choose from 20 unique chef-designed recipes every week, like fish tacos with avocado sauce and crunchy slaw, or globally inspired dishes like beef rendang with Thai lime and yellow rice. In just a few clicks, you can plan dinner. We'll take care of the rest. See how easy and fun it is to make a dinner that's beautifully cooked, shared, and enjoyed. Go to plated.com/order and get 25% off your first 4 weeks. And make your dinners perfectly plated.
Fox News alert, new reaction to changes on the White House national security team. President Trump announcing former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, will replace H.R. McMaster as National Security Advisor starting April 9th. Bolton will be the president's 3rd national security advisor in a bit more than a year. Critics raising concerns over Bolton's reputation as a national security hawk. Democratic Senator Ed Markey tweeting that Bolton's selection sends a clear message. The president is gearing up for military conflict. Here he is elaborating on that point.
He is absolutely right now indulging his worst instincts, both here domestically and in his foreign policy. He's going to a much more radical approach.
Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, hitting back at critics, praising John Bolton, saying the president is entitled to assemble his team as he sees fit.
It's his agenda. If people support it, they should be here. If you're not with the program, you should get with the program or get out. But that doesn't mean blind loyalty. This is a man who takes into consideration everybody's different inputs and ideas, and that makes him a wonderful leader and a terrific boss. This country should be pleased when people who don't need another chapter in their illustrious careers want to come in and serve the nation.
Pete, John Bolton lines up, and we've all been on air with him. We should say that. You know him well. John Bolton lines up with President Trump on two critical issues: getting tough with North Korea ahead of the Kim Jong-un meeting, and Iran, that nuclear deal was a lousy one.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you to Ed Markey for what he's saying, because if our enemies are listening, they now know that they're on notice. Right. And if you want peace, your enemies have to believe that you're willing to wage war.
Yep.
And this is a cabinet in the White House right now that our enemies will take seriously. And when you walk into that room in North Korea and Kim Jong-un thinks you really will take a preemptive strike, then maybe he really does give up his nukes. And when Iran realizes you may actually strike them if they don't get rid of that capability, you've got a new set of terms on the Iran deal as well. Fantastic pick with Ambassador Bolton, because our friends love him, like Israel, and our military, and our enemies are scared of him.
I think it's also ironic that you hear these reports that the president is surrounding himself with yes men. I mean, what a joke. We know Ambassador Bolton very well. He is not a yes man. I've known Larry Kudlow forever, also not a yes man. He's going to be very outspoken on his views. Even if the president disagrees with him, he won't care. Ambassador Bolton, it's the same thing. I think the difference is, and you probably have to know a lot of these people to understand it, they're people who are very strong and very decisive. And it seems like he's sick of people who are timid, who don't stand up for what they believe for, are wishy-washy, or are politic. Instead, he wants people who don't take any nonsense.
Well, I don't think General McMaster was wishy-washy.
He sure was on the Iran deal. He sure was on a lot of things. Unfortunately, even though he's a war hero, I respect him.
About the Iran deal and understanding that we need a diplomatic solution so that we don't end up in war doesn't make you wishy-washy.
No diplomatic solution.
The solution is they don't have nukes. That's the solution. It isn't a deal. It's they don't get nukes. What's the best path there?
President Trump and Rand Paul were the only two presidential candidates who came out and said that the Iraq war was the biggest mistake. We should have never been there. He now has Ambassador Bolton, who we know is in an administration, talking about the fact that they had WMDs. He still doesn't think that it was a mistake.
What does that have to do with
it? It has to do with the fact that he campaigned as a president who did not want to get us into more wars.
He campaigned as a president who was decisive about the fact that if you are going to shut down Iran's nukes, if you are going to call North Korea to heel, they have to understand that you will respond. And it's not about using it. It's about that this diplomacy that we've been taken advantage of in every corner of the world. The Iran deal is not a deal. It's abuse. They're not following it. And that's what he's talking about. You prevent war by being strong.
I want to bring up the point that Ambassador Bolton does seem to differ with President Trump on Russia, and that's been the talking point since the Democratic National Convention for people on the left is Russia, 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 and that the president is too easy on Vladimir Putin and on the former Soviet Union. Ambassador Bolton has a deep mistrust for Russia and thinks that the poisoning of that ex-spy and his daughter is a pivot point for relations.
So Ambassador Bolton is very consistent in his hawkish ways. He sees definitely America first. So while there may be categories of things where they don't agree upon, they have been meeting for weeks. We know that from our own reporting. I would say this, among the people that we're seeing come on board now, from the president's legal team and the hires there to people he's putting in place and what he called the cabinet and other things that he wants to pull together, they are consistently good talkers and people who can take an agenda out and sell it.
That's true.
And talk about what's going on. What we've had is an inconsistency in message. And it has hurt this White House to not know where Rex Tillerson was coming from. And for Sarah Sanders or the president to come on later in the day and for them all to kind of be on different points until they can get on the same point. So that's extra work for the White House. They may not all agree, but Ambassador Bolton is a guy who will get the message right, and it'll take the pressure off the White House always having to put that out there. It's an observation, but it's one that I think we can agree on, that message has been a challenge.
Very much so.
I found it laughable and offensive that people would treat Ambassador Bolton. They kept talking about him as a talking head.
Yes.
And that he's another member of this reality show.
He's not a talking head. I mean, he was our top diplomat.
Well, he worked in the Ronald Reagan administration. He worked under both Bush presidencies in the State Department. He created, and this is so important ahead of this Kim Jong-un meeting, the Multinational Proliferation Security Initiative in 2003 that was designed to deter North Korea's movement of weapons material.
He's the best of both worlds. He's an outside-the-box thinker who can explain complex concepts to people, but he's also been inside these bureaucracies and government institutions, understands how they try to outmaneuver political appointees so that you can actually make things happen. So he's an insider and an outsider. I think it's a great combo for him.
And inside the White House, somebody that the president who's been meeting with and trusts, obviously.
There's one thing that saddens me. I've been trying to talk him into growing mutton chops for years, like Dwayne Allman, and you know what? It's probably not happening now.
Not happening.
Clean shave rule, right?
Yeah.
We'll see if
it's
the
an inside joke. So the top Republican on the House Judiciary officially subpoenaing the Justice Department for reams of documents covering the Hillary Clinton email investigation and the recent firing of Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Will the DOJ hand over the info? And what happens if they don't? Next.
When someone watches the news, they want someone they can trust. Our job is to cut through the talking points.
We're going to ask the tough questions because there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there that needs to be challenged.
What I'm doing is making sure that whatever is developed through the day, people are fully informed from coast to coast.
We're 24/7 news, but we're really down to the minute.
We're going to be fearless. We're going to be fair.
Whether it's 4 a.m. or midnight, we're there.
It's okay that everybody ignores me when I drive. It's fine, because I get a safe driving bonus check every 6 months I'm accident-free. And I don't share it with Mom, right, Mom? Right.
Safe driving bonus checks only from Allstate. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
I think it's time to retire my dad's suit.
Not to worry, our expert stylist will bring you up to date.
There he is. Here I am.
Now at Men's Wearhouse, take 60% off select suits, plus all wrinkle-free dress shirts are 3 for $99.
You're gonna like the way you look in a great fitting suit.
If you have been diagnosed with lung cancer, you may be entitled to compensation. Even with a history of smoking, you may still qualify. Asbestos trusts have been established, and billions of dollars have been paid to people with lung cancer or mesothelioma. To learn more, contact us now for a free consultation. Call 1-800-950-MESO. For nearly 2 decades, we've been fighting for people with lung cancer and mesothelioma. Call us at 1-800-950-MESO. Lung cancer and mesothelioma. Don't fight it alone.
You know, I never realized how much work goes into taking care of horses.
You think that's hard? Try taking care of thousands of animals at the same time.
Go ahead. Think bigger.
I'm Marie, and I dropped 50 pounds on Nutrisystem. Yeah, I dropped 40 pounds.
I dropped 79 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Introducing Turbo 13. Now with all new turbo boosters to rev your metabolism. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guaranteed.
I'm healthier now.
Order your 28-day plan right now and we'll rush you Turbo 13 with specially designed meals. Plus 1 week of all new NutriCurb bars to curb cravings free. And 1 week of Turbo Shakes to help shrink your belly free.
Bye-bye, belly fat.
Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and get 1 week of all new turbo boosters to rev your metabolism free. Millions have lost weight on Nutrisystem. Now it's your turn. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month.
You can drop your first 13 pounds fast.
Go online or call 855-495-SLIM right now and get Turbo 13 with bars, shakes, and turbo boosters free.
Hey, Todd. Hey, Will. So I think I got to get my roof repaired. Do you know anybody?
Yeah, actually I might.
Ah, great. Can you do a free background check on them for me? Get me some additional quotes. Research the average price for the job in this area and book the job for 2 weeks from now. On a Wednesday. No, wait. Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday's better.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So to find and instantly book a background-checked home pro for free, just ask HomeAdvisor.
If you have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla.
Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats psoriasis differently. With Otezla, 75% clearer skin is achievable after just 4 months, with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. And the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Tell your doctor if these occur. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Other side effects include upper respiratory tract infection and headache. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte officially subpoenaed the DOJ yesterday to press the department for documents he says it's been slow to turn over to his panel for its ongoing investigations. This includes more than 1 million docs regarding the 2016 investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server while Secretary of State, potential FISA abuses, and obtaining a warrant to monitor President Trump's former campaign advisor, Carter Page, and the recommendation from the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility to fire former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. What do you make of this?
So the chairman is simply saying we've asked you nicely for these documents. You've slow walked them, as these institutions oftentimes do. So now we're forced to subpoena you. And right now, what are we waiting on to get information on these particular things? The Hillary Clinton email server, which we still don't have information on, the abuses of the FISA process. I mean, a lot of hope is hinging on the DOJ Inspector General Horowitz and what he finds, but he doesn't have this same power and doesn't have the criminal ability. So it makes sense to me that a committee like this, which would oversee this, could ask DOJ. But now it'll depend on what DOJ actually provides. But they said the right thing. They said the bureaucracies always say the right thing. But then they wait for the cameras to go somewhere else, and then they drip out a few documents heavily redacted. The question is, what do they actually get to see? And we're going to need to see something on this, because this chapter is not closed, especially on FISA surveillance.
Yeah, but you left off one important thing off the list, which is they also want to look into the firing of Deputy Director Andy McCabe.
Correct.
So there's something. No, Pete did when he said that's what they're looking at. And I think that it is important, especially since we found out that Andy McCabe was opening up an investigation into Jeff Sessions. And then Jeff Sessions came and fired Andy McCabe. I think that they should turn over all documents. It's 1.2 million, I think it is. I'm not one of those Democrats who minds the emails being looked into over and over until everyone is satisfied and we can finally move on. When there is more sunlight on all of this, actually, I feel like it gets better even actually for the Hillary Clinton camp on this, and so I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Well, people have said that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Andy McCabe was fired because of what the Inspector General's report turned up, which is coming out, and it was also on the recommendation of the office within the FBI that investigates misconduct by its employees. And so when you can't lie, and I don't care what you call it, whether it lacked candor.
They're calling it deception.
Right. How about just lying? So we're going to find out.
But there are other factors in this. The president is also tweeting that he wants Andy McCabe
Melissa,
out.
a former director, assistant director at the FBI, told me last week that the IG report on this matter will be explosive.
I hope that we really get to see it all. I mean, I feel like they're always working on these reports. We never get to actually see it, or when we do, there's a lot that's missing. You talk about those 1.2 million documents. There are always a lot of funny things that they do with them besides redacting. I mean, in the Clinton case, there were ones that they submitted on paper instead of electronically, because obviously if it's electronic, you can search for keywords, and if it's in paper, it makes it that much tougher. I mean, 1.2 million is an awful lot. But I mean, I would like to see all these documents. I'm not holding my breath. I feel like we never do, and I feel like there's never any accountability, that even when a smoking gun is found, no one is ever punished.
Jessica, you talk about sunlight. I mean, we've been standing on the sun as it pertains to looking into Russian collusion now for a year. So we've been sunlighting that. Is there any concern amongst Democrats that once the sunlight actually turns to Hillary Clinton's email server and FISA abuses, that there might be problems? I mean, this was all supposed to go away because Hillary was supposed to win. Is there any concern internally that they might actually find something, that sunlight is bad for Democrats in this?
I don't think so. And if there are from certain people, I mean, there might be people, super close to her. I don't work for her, so I don't know that. But I think that it's good for the Democrats if we can get to a point, and I don't believe that it's actually ever possible that people will fully leave this behind, but if you can keep building and building and building a case that she didn't do something wrong, that she didn't break the law, that only helps you. And I don't think Democrats thought, oh, this will just go away because she wins. I think Democrats thought she didn't do anything wrong here. Yes, I mean, having the private email server, but not...
The whole thing was wrong, but no one's ever actually looked into it.
No one's ever looked into it.
They exonerated her 2 months before they interviewed her.
I think
it was never a fair process.
There are not enough questions have been answered about an individual getting spied upon by our own law enforcement and getting a warrant for that spying.
You're talking about Carter Page.
Yeah, that spying based on a dossier put together with political money from the Democrats and the Clintons.
So there are a couple things that I have questions about. First of all, it would be really helpful to see the actual FISA application, to see what these judges were told or were not told about who paid for the anti-Trump dossier, how it was used. And let's not talk about Carter Page as if he's not one thing that we all are. He's an American citizen. Right. So if there is a problem with how we apply for spying on American citizens, we ought to want to know the answer to that particular question immediately. It doesn't matter political party.
Expect more stonewalling and another special counsel, which Bob Goodlatte and Trey Gowdy on the Oversight Committee have called for.
All right, we'll move on. Speaking of questions, questionable new reaction to former VP Joe Biden suggesting he'd like to beat up the president. Actually, it was nastier than that, what he said. Guess who the mainstream media, some of them, are siding with? And if some of their new comments really do cross the line. Stay with us.
Trump is such a bully. I almost, and I hate to say this, you know, why hasn't anybody taken him out back and kicked his little butt?
It's the buy one, get one free paint sale at Ace.
Our biggest paint sale of the year.
Buy a gallon of our top paint brands and get one free.
And you know what else is free? Our help.
With the Ace Extra Mile Promise, if you don't get everything you need in one trip, we'll bring it to you. And the delivery is free.
Don't miss the buy one, get one free paint sale. Get great savings on our top paint brands. Valspar, Clark & Kensington, and Royal. Now through Monday, only at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
A Miami Cuban with slow roasted pork loin. Slowly smoked brisket with smoky barbecue sauce. And a New York Reuben with kraut and corned beef. You could travel across the country to try these 3 legendary sandwiches, but apparently you can't bring your therapy peacock on a plane. So just come to Arby's. Arby's, we have the meats.
Hi, I'm Joan London. Today's senior living communities have never been better. With amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And there's never been an easier way to get great advice. A Place for Mom is a free service that pairs you with a local advisor to help you sort through your options and find the perfect place. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together we'll make the right choice.
Don't have vision coverage through work? Look forward to clarity when it matters most.
Thank you, VSP.
VSP Individual Vision Plans offers coverage you can buy on your own with the lowest out-of-pocket costs on eye exams and eyewear.
There's another one. That's a beautiful one.
So you won't miss any of life's little moments. Go to VSPDirect.com to see better. For life, for less.
Having moderate to severe plaque psoriasis is not always easy. It's a long-distance run, and you have the determination to keep going. Humira has a proven track record of being prescribed for over 10 years. It's the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists. More than 250,000 patients have chosen Humira to fight their psoriasis, and they're not backing down. For most patients, clearer skin is the proof.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Join over 250,000 people who have chosen Humira. Ask your dermatologist about Humira and go.
Are you a veteran and need money for your family? New Day USA can help. We earned a lot of VA benefits with our service, but the VA home loan benefit is a big one. If you want to use it to get cash, call New Day USA. VA loans are all they do. And don't let less than perfect credit hold you back. Even if you've been turned down for a VA loan by your bank, call New Day. They've been given automatic authority by the VA. They can often help veterans when other lenders won't. By refinancing up to 100% of your home's value, you could take out an average of $54,000 cash. You could use that money to pay credit card debt and other expenses, plan for retirement, and get back on your feet financially. Need money for your family? Call New Day USA and use the VA home loan benefit you've earned and deserve.
Call 1-844-383-1546.
The president now getting on the record about when we will hear whether he will veto the omnibus spending bill, or at least something about it. Let's put up his tweet from seconds ago. He says, news conference at the White House concerning the omnibus spending bill, 1 p.m. We will be perched and ready to cover that. We knew that there was a White House press briefing at that time. Perhaps this is the very subject matter. And, you know, Dagan had mentioned on Fox and Friends, I believe it was this morning.
Maria
Bartiromo's
show, excuse me. Florida Congressman DeSantis had said, you know, I dare the president to veto this. Moments later, we saw a veto promise from the president that he was considering doing this. And first he listed the very thing that Democrats said meant so much to them, enough to shut down the government in January. The DACA recipients, not mentioned in this monstrosity of a bill, $1.3 trillion. He mentions them first. He also says the wall is not fully funded. What would happen if he vetoes? The government shuts down, at least until potentially Monday at 4 p.m. when the House and others reconvene on the Hill. The markets, Dagan noticed, didn't really move to that, which means it could happen. We could go forward. We could see some change by Monday. A lot of this is if. One thing is for sure, the president says, watch at 1 p.m. Eastern, because there's going to be a news conference on that very matter. Let's move on.
Well, I've been in a lot of locker rooms my whole life, a pretty damn good athlete. Any guy who talked that way was usually the fattest, ugliest SOB in the room.
Well, that
was former Vice President Joe Biden reigniting a war of words with President Trump over the treatment of women and sending the media on fire, setting them on fire. But check out this take from ABC show The View and see if you think it's maybe a little one-sided on Biden's comments. Watch this.
There was something chivalrous about it.
About
Joe Biden saying, you know, if he said that and we were in high school, I'd take him out back and I'd kick his butt.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, there was something about that. Trump is such a bully. I almost, and I hate to say this, you know, why hasn't anybody taken him out back and kicked his little butt?
That's The View co-host Sunny, I don't know her name, Hostin,
It's Hostin.
who is also a senior legal correspondent and analyst for ABC News. She later clarified that she was, quote, in no way advocating violence towards the president. I don't know about that. We should also note that co-host Meghan McCain voiced concerns about a double standard being applied when it comes to what Biden says versus the president's words. I would also note that he was talking about he would hit the president based on what the president said about women. And it shows how out of touch he is with young women, because I don't want anyone grabbing me and I don't want anyone hitting someone else for saying what they're going to say. I can take care of myself. Thank you very much. I don't need Joe Biden defending me, but that's beside the point. I know we're talking about the fact.
You know, so I took it differently. I didn't take it as the vice president defending anybody, because
No, you're
it
right.
seemed like he was going after somebody. And, you know, when people fight for relevance, right, sometimes these things get said. I always thought that Joe Biden really wanted to run last time. And we covered it on this very program the day that he said that he wasn't running.
Right.
And Sandra Smith and I commented how long it took him into that I'm not running speech
I remember that. You're
to
right.
actually say he wasn't running, which I think in his mind perhaps he has been. This is a yo mama situation with him. That's how it comes across to me.
He had to watch.
Does anybody know what that means?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who doesn't know what that means?
Tracking.
Joe Biden had to watch Trump run and win. And so he had worked up all these lines, and he's just using the material that he spent the last year and a half drumming up, I'm sure he has a little notebook somewhere.
And he had to
of
watch
insults.
Hillary Clinton run, and he now has to watch Donald Trump govern. I mean,
it's horrible.
He's atop the polls right now for a Democratic candidate, by the way, and Bernie is sinking.
Oh, good. So everybody's stooped to the same level.
And just for the sake of fairness, between Trump and Biden, there are 9 military deferments. One, you know, Biden for asthma and Trump bone spurs. So both of them with their fighting talk didn't make it into the battlefield, as it were.
So we joked yesterday because I had looked at the stats of these two men, right, with the height and the weight and who might have a shot. The Washington Post wrote an entire article about this. I said that Trump he's 4 years younger, 3 inches taller, and maybe weighs, based on my eyeballing it, maybe 20 more pounds than Joe Biden. But they talked to like fighting experts and like boxing experts.
But you know,
I mean, it was kind of that's how I viewed it. I thought it was.
I want to get back to just 1 second, if we can, before we move on to people in the media who are having to apologize for things that look like they're calling for more violence. Just the last word on that.
Yeah, the double standard is clear and blatant, no doubt.
And you look at people who have condemned him, and now they're just going right to that level.
Okay. So the breaking news right now is that the president has just tweeted that we are awaiting now a news conference to begin in just a few minutes atop the hour at 1 p.m. Eastern. The subject, we are told from the tweet, is the omnibus spending bill. We've talked today about how some of the things he wanted are in that bill. But Pete, you say the wall and DACA. It seems odd, but this president is going someplace where Democrats haven't. For 800,000 people who are here that he wants to offer some sort of umbrella for. That is irony to the core.
I think that's real, A. B, I also feel like the president, I've been told that at some levels he was told certain things were going to be in it that ultimately weren't in it.
Oh,
and he's furious about that aspect. Listen, I would love to see the president veto this bill because I would love to see Washington, D.C. go nuts because they've never seen somebody like this who truly is trying to fight the swamp. And in this bill, except for the funding for DOD, which I love, this is the swamp trying to reject what this president is trying to do and not give him the priorities he was elected on. And the fact that there aren't enough courage in the reservoir of Republicans in Congress is not this president's fault. And if he did veto this,
you want to
it'd be
talk
because
about
he's standing up.
a lack of courage. Where are the Democrats on this issue? I mean, he's about to take their mojo off the table with this issue of DACA recipients. This, you know, if anybody thought this was a head fake this morning, now there's a news conference on the topic. Melissa?
No, it's true. I mean, he tricked Democrats into crowing that they got everything they wanted, and Republicans are screaming that Democrats got everything they wanted. And then lo and behold, you look what's missing here. And it's those forgotten and used dreamers whom he offered basically amnesty to the annoyance of his own party. I will say it's funny, you know, I'm looking at TV Newser, which is something that we follow in the business, but it says, who needs a communications director when you have Twitter? The president tweeting news conference at the White House concerning the omnibus spending bill, 1 p.m. I mean, it does read like a press release on his tweet. He's not saying he's going to be there, but it's funny. Everybody snapped to attention.
Okay, but he had one of the most watched television shows for a very long time. He knows how to do it. He also knows that this is the point that's making news. I mean, Jessica, you pointed out that those conservative members of the House, those Freedom Caucus members, and I said there are not enough of them to push against this, but you pointed out, well, where are they? They voted no.
Yeah, they did all that they could, and they were on the TV circuit. Jim Jordan was out there, certainly, you know, being very loud.
I had him on Overtime this week.
Exactly. And I totally get it. The larger point that I was making is there's these 22 members in there in the House who don't really have a home of a party now that the Republicans have abandoned fiscal conservatism. And this increasingly happens on both. When you look at what's happening with the progressive wing of the Democratic Party versus the more moderate center, you look at Freedom Caucus members who say, you know, we are there to deal with the debt and the deficit, to make sure Obamacare goes away, to make sure that these
programs...
They're
the soul of the Republican Party.
Well,
how about this question? So Jessica says those conservatives, those fiscal conservatives, don't have a home or a party. Maybe they do with this president. Maybe this is a new type of Republican Party.
He's a big spender. That infrastructure bill is an enormous question.
Some of this president's best friends have been throughout this first year and a half are the Freedom Caucus, are the true believers who for years have been saying let's actually repeal and replace Obamacare, who for years have been saying let's cut taxes, who for many of them for years have been saying let's fund the military properly. So he's found them to be good friends.
Can I step in with a little breaking news?
Yes.
So we don't have to conjecture. The president will brief at the White House at 1 p.m. Eastern.
I hope Larry Kudlow's there with him. I hope Larry Kudlow shows up with him.
It won't matter who's with him. He's briefing. He's stepping up to the lectern.
Yes.
He's the president of the United States, and he will brief the nation at 1 p.m. Eastern.
President Trump, though, does like spending other people's money as well.
But I think his priorities reflect the priorities of grassroots conservatives.
Not the infrastructure bill.
I have to stop you on that.
There's some on both sides.
I really have to stop you on that because, again, and we brought this up, he ran on not touching Social Security or Medicare or any of the entitlements. He ran on that.
Point on entitlements,
so that's not fiscally conservative.
But the infrastructure was something that, I mean, this was a man who's built things. I mean, so the infrastructure was always part of
and it is
what
mostly
he thought would make
private
America
money,
great
not
again.
public
What
money.
you guys are talking about is $21 billion. Does it take that much?
But and it's again,
there's a lot of private money in there.
Again, it's throwing money at a problem. We already allocated in 2016 $1 billion for opioid treatment. Now we got $4 billion more when we've never accounted for the efficacy of that first $1 billion. That's throwing money at a problem.
What is the number of people? Isn't it? It's a pretty big number who are dying of opioid.
But it's a huge crisis, and I think the president has been smart to jump on that.
But
let me give you one more example.
But my issue is that's what lawmakers do: is they throw money at a problem with no proof that it actually more money is going to work.
This president is not a lawmaker; he's a businessman. He's not a politician. I'll take another example: the VA. We just threw a lot more money at the VA problem in this budget. You know what got stripped out at the last minute, from what I'm told from people close to the current VA secretary, is all the choice stuff that this president has talked about. Remember the idea of giving veteran the option to choose?
Go public
the
or private.
swamp rips that out, and then they jam all the funding in.
Can we do
and that's how these policies
full
work.
disclosure here too? You are being looked at.
Sure, and this has nothing.
As the Secretary of the VA, and so this is something that you obviously are very close to. I just full disclosure here because it's important. Your perspective on this isn't just your opinion. I mean, this is something that you're studying right now, and you're a former member of our military.
It's very near and dear to my heart. I use it more as an example of what happens in a lot of departments across our government. Reformers try to get things, the swamp rips it out and just throws more money at the problem and then tells people it's solved.
The swamp tactic.
That's a great point.
One thing I'll point out, a point of fact, you need 2/3 of a vote in both the House and the Senate to override a veto. Don't have it. When the Senate voted last night, it was 62-35. So a few votes short.
So if he comes out and says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and veto it, to get it back in play, he's going to insist on DACA. And does he add in border wall
100%.
I know, but I'm saying, like, if you ask those two things in, does it then get passed? Does that reopen the government? I mean, is that a gamble that works?
Pass it with DACA?
Oh,
I mean, is that a full-fledged fall on a plastic fork?
But if he...
I mean, can you imagine? He's taking all of their power at this point.
He's taking the stakes.
He raises the stakes, but if he vetoes and shuts down the government, that's a huge gamble. Obviously, we've seen others do that. Not that anyone cares if the government's shut down necessarily.
Apparently, according to the markets don't even care.
But if he then comes back and says, here are the things that we need to add, is that a gamble that pays off? I don't know. Are there enough votes for that? If you hold this up and you say, what I want is to add these two things,
it certainly
is it still too expensive?
Expenses out the door.
Off the table, as you can imagine.
Yeah, 1.3 versus 1.5 trillion makes no difference at this point. This bill is so enormous.
Oh, that David and I are both going to just.
If they got this many people to vote for it, I think that they're going to say no.
What's another?
And it also could make a huge point, because if the president can also say we're going to do this differently and take this off the table and we're adding this in, and you mentioned some of the things even within the military spending that he didn't get. I mean, if he can show that there's a barter negotiating situation, he even takes some of the establishment Republicans' power, too.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm looking at the total picture.
He's throwing Mick Mulvaney under the bus. He's throwing Paul Ryan under the bus. I mean,
yeah, but what if it works?
Yeah, it's astonishing, though, that we have a president that he takes no prisoners. He doesn't care if these individuals are a member of his own party who went out.
This is what he said he was going to do.
The president is going to sign this bill, no problem.
He's the one guy with the power to actually take on the stuff that people are sick of seeing in Washington.
Right,
which are
like
backroom deals made by a couple of people, 2,000 pages that you couldn't read if you wanted to.
Well, they only got 48 hours anyway. They only got 48 hours to read it anyway.
I had Jim Jordan of the Freedom Caucus on overtime, and I said to him, I'm like, so you got this at 8-something last night, 2,232 pages. You couldn't read it if you wanted to.
No, not with all the staffers in the world could you get through it. And I'd be interested to see, because there are some members of the Democratic Party, immigration hardliners like Luis Gutierrez, for instance, who said, give them the wall funding. I don't care. Protect the Dreamers, right? That was the initial stance there. So it'll be interesting to see about the infighting within the Democratic Party, who will compromise on the wall funding to say we made this promise to the Dreamers, and who will back down off of that.
We don't know that that's what he's going to say. It's just that that's what it looks like.
From his tweet, those are the two things that he's throwing out there.
We don't know.
I just want to
we should leave our tea leaves in
it
our
certainly will be
tea.
about immigration.
But
to
we
some
do
degree.
know, I mean, because I love tea, and so we'll just leave the tea leaves there. We'll drain them well and add some sugar. But we do know that this is the subject, and he must know that the country, after he said he was considering a veto, I know I got all these emails sent to me about where all the House members are and who's getting on a bus to go here and who's going out.
It is tough
everybody's
with the
looking,
funeral
it says,
today.
House members adjourn until Monday at 4 p.m. No chance of an interim spending bill. If the president vetoes the bill, the government will shut down.
Setting aside the funeral, which is legitimate.
Right.
There's not a single voter out in America that cares in the least that a single member of Congress is inconvenienced because of a shutdown.
No, they're over
Our
it.
country is being inconvenienced by crappy representation in Washington, D.C., and this president is saying he has the pulse of people on the ground who feel like they're being underserved, both I know on the right for conservatives, but probably progressives on the left as well.
And all they could agree on in this bill was spending an embarrassing, enormous amount of our money.
Yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is what he was supposed to go and stop. Is this just taking, as you said before, just the piling on of more and more debt and the spending of our money on thing after thing when you're not getting the services that you want, you're not getting the outcome that you deserve, and instead we just spend more money at every single turn.
Here's my issue with infrastructure.
It's disgusting.
$21 billion in infrastructure. We're going to borrow the money to pay for that rather than making the people who actually use the infrastructure pay for it.
Well,
I know
that's private funding.
There's a lot of private funding.
Not the $21 billion. The $21 billion is allocated in this omnibus bill. I think it's about the border wall, and it's not a wall, it's actually fencing.
It's a wall system.
It's a wall system.
So let me ask you,
morphed into a wall system.
Democrats go for this, do you think, Jessica? All right, so we're not going to do $21 billion. You've got so many matching private funding opportunities out there, and beyond even matching. I mean, just a ton of cash out there anyway. And you're, creating jobs. That could almost sit on its own. But say you take half of that and you say, no, we're going to offer this to offset the cost of some other things, and we're going to bring in DACA. How in the world do Democrats say no to that? I mean, I think we want to see that live.
Oh,
when they vote against that.
I'm sure that you will, and the president will make sure
that
that
happens. I watch a lot of C-SPAN, but yes.
But it will be incredibly difficult, especially if you even look at this wall system as an infrastructure project in and of itself. And you're saying you're hiring more border security, and that's something that has been in gang of 8,
right,
gang
it's
of
the whole
6,
system.
and in
It
this
isn't just the wall.
Right.
Can I get this one point in, though, because I think this is interesting. So a senior Democrat aide is telling Fox News, if the president vetoes the bill, it is the Republicans' problem. This would be a huge loss to Republicans, especially how they trumpeted these hikes for weeks now. I think it's complicated for Senator Mitch McConnell, too. He put out the biggest victories in the spending bill list yesterday.
They also, they tried to say it was going to be the Republicans' fault last time, and quite clearly the Democrats felt the pain from that shutdown.
Republicans.
Of course, they already are the ones being slammed in this. I'll tell you what I think the president's Achilles heel is in all of this, is his love of the military and his desire to refund the Pentagon and the DOD.
We know he talked to Mattis today.
He said that he hears that in his ear. He focuses on that. I know you hear that in his public statements. And so I think time and time again, he probably gave a little and gave a little bit more and gave a little bit more because he loves our military and wants it properly funded and was willing to give. At some point, you give too much. Maybe that happened, maybe it didn't. But I don't think he's going to let the military suffer. No matter where this goes, he's going to make sure the military gets funded.
But we do know that this is all a big game of compromise, and that's why we have multiple parties. We should have more than just two parties because we know people are not satisfied with the deal that they have right now. But you are going to have to give up certain things to get your priorities, and I think that's the point that Tim Kaine was making out there, and that people understand when they sign on to a bipartisan bill of this size, that it's a compromise.
Let me scoot in with this update. So I said to you earlier that there was a White House press briefing that was also called for 1 p.m. Eastern. So we were trying to figure out, does that morph into something else? According to an update White House guidance, there will no longer be a press briefing. The president will now have a press availability. And so we are seeking for more. That's at 1 p.m. Eastern. We know that because he let us know himself. Dagan?
And on the whitehouse.gov website under live, it actually says President Trump participates in a bill signing. That's what the website still says. So we'll see if that changes or not. But that's not what he was tweeting about.
So you're saying the schedule had been that there would be a bill signing?
That's what it says, bill signing.
And that's been there since they passed it.
Is he going to
overnight? Yeah, well, it happened overnight when the Senate passed it.
Yeah.
But I want to go back.
You got to stay tuned, that's for sure.
We are coming upon the top of the hour. Let's go to the wall, or in some fashion or way show the tweet that got the conversation started from the president's account. News conference at the White House concerning the omnibus spending bill, 1 p.m. The White House is what you see in the center of your screen right now. And so we are watching to see the president now. We are watching to see the president stop by, and I'm being talked to, so please forgive me. Melissa?
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. We know that this president is completely unpredictable. We know that it is, right, Dagan, we know now that it is him coming to the lectern or in the White House, in the press briefing room. He was supposed to sign something, but that's not going to happen.
It's still on the website, so maybe he comes up and speaks his piece and still signs his.
Sure,
that's possible too.
I don't want to shut down the government.
That's possible too. Or he could dare Democrats to come back and to save the Dreamers and to do what they said they were going to do. I mean, he could really call them on the carpet in this moment right here and say, you got everything you wanted.
All right. I'm going to step in here now because we're going to widen our viewing audience and bring in everybody who's part of the Fox family. So here's what we are watching for right now. We are looking live at the White House. We are waiting just a couple of minutes from now. The president has said that he will address the nation on that huge $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill, which does not account for helping out DACA recipients, those children who came here illegally, now adults. What will happen to their illegal immigration status? He wants that part of it. We're going to pause now for 1 moment to let our Fox stations join. This is a Fox News coverage of a presidential news conference at the White House beginning any moment now. The president will take questions. He tweeted that the focus will be the omnibus spending bill. He said he is considering a veto on that bill. It is $1.3 million, or trillion dollars rather, that the House and Senate have passed. It was supposed to go to his desk for a bill signing, but now we're waiting to see exactly what the president will do. Will he in fact veto that bill, forcing a government shutdown? You've got the House that's already adjourned, so you don't have anyone right now potentially that we know of on Capitol Hill that could stick in a spending gap bill real quick to keep that government open. The president vetoes this, the government shuts down. They do re-adjourn at 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday with a whole new conversation happening, potentially a conversation about DACA recipients. Those people who came here as children remain illegal among us as immigrants. What happens to them? The president had promised to do something with them. He's willing to keep his promise. What will happen with the other lawmakers on Capitol Hill? Chief White House correspondent John Roberts now joins us. John, we are perched for this.
Harris, yeah, and unfortunately, I've got to leave because we thought that the president might come here to the press briefing room, but he is going to do this in the diplomatic room. So I got to run, and we'll let you know as soon as we can what's going on.
Okay, John Roberts, go do your thing, your job. We'll come to you when we can. Our chief White House correspondent, John Roberts, being told that they will not assemble in the White House pressing brief. So let me just back up a second.
Yeah.
Because this is a Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we thought that there would be a White House press briefing by the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders. We now know that the agenda has changed. And part of that change, that notification came from the president's Twitter account, where he said, there's going to be a news conference at the White House concerning the spending bill, 1 p.m. Eastern. And you know, we're going to be there. Now we have to figure out how to get there. Diplomatic room. And that's where we are going now with our crews so that we can cover this live. The president now looking at a spending bill, $1.3 trillion. Is this really the kind of money as a nation that we can take on as more debt if certain issues didn't get dealt with? Like full funding for his border wall, which he says is very important for national defense. Melissa, I see you. Melissa Francis is on the couch with me.
I have to say that this is exactly what he was elected for by the people who voted for him, is that you can tell by virtue of the fact that the media is all in the wrong spot and they're scrambling to go to the right place. You can see how impromptu all of this was, and that he has announced that he's changing the agenda based on that he doesn't like what has happened here and he sees a new opportunity. His enemies will say, my goodness, look at how capricious he is. Look at, on a whim, he's tweeting, he's changing things, chaos, everybody's scrambling. No, I mean, this is a way to negotiate with people. When you are willing to pull the plug and you are willing to walk away from the table, that is the only time when the other side takes you seriously.
Yes. All right, I want to tell everybody what they're watching, because on Fox News Channel, you're used to seeing us go from overtime, from outnumbered to outnumbered overtime, but our broadcast viewers are not. I'm Harris Faulkner. This is breaking news. The president wants to talk about how we spend money and keep the government open and what issues need to be on the table. You're watching Outnumbered Overtime. We've scooted into that 1 p.m. Eastern hour now, and we are perched for the president in the diplomatic room now at the White House, now that we know where to go and to send our journalists to see what exactly he will say. On the couch with me, you just heard from Melissa Francis. Pete Hegseth, a former member of our military, Fox and Friends Weekend co-host, is with me too. Pete?
Yeah, I mean, this is turning into what I believe will be a watershed moment. There's a possibility he communicates right now why he's going to sign the bill, even though he has reservations. And a president with this kind of bully pulpit would take that opportunity to start the debate about what it means. I also think, in light of his tweet earlier today, that it's strongly possible that he actually vetoes this bill.
Yeah.
The heads of most people in Washington, D.C. explode.
Yep.
But his voters have wanted them to start thinking differently, and they refuse to. And this president, almost even just watching John Roberts scramble to go to the other room, is indicative of the scramble Washington is seeing. And the stale status quo in Washington has not worked, especially for people that wanted him to go to there to shake it up. This is the literal and figurative shakeup of that swamp. And I think he can preserve what he got for the military while also reinforcing his own priorities.
Do we have Jennifer Griffin standing by? I'm asking our team, because she can go into detail now about exactly what you're talking about, the military spending. She's live for us at the Pentagon. Jennifer, you're with us?
Hi, Harris. Well, I think if you look at the military part of this budget, the military got $80 billion more in this budget than they've had in the past. Defense Secretary Mattis is over at the White House right now. We know that he had lunch with the president. It was clear that both Mattis as well as members of the Armed Services Committee, Republican members of the Armed Services Committees, as well as Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, were reaching out to the White House, to the president, to implore him to sign this omnibus spending bill, because the defense budget will be held captive if he does not sign, if he vetoes. That has been the argument from Republicans as well as the Pentagon for some time. The Pentagon chiefs have been asking, begging, if you will, for more than just a continuing resolution, more than just temporary spending. They need to know how they're going to rebuild the military. And this budget has in it $46.4 billion to repair those aircraft that have been falling out of the sky. You have only half of the F-18 fighter aircraft in the Navy that can fly right now. It has $22 billion for Army reset. They are going to have to reset because 120,000 soldiers have been let go over the last few years. They only have 5 brigades that are ready to fight tonight. They've lost 15 brigades. So this is not the time to be playing chicken with the defense budget, and that is what he likely heard from Defense Secretary Mattis over lunch.
All right, Jennifer, stay right where you are. I want to set this up. People are turning on their sets. I'm seeing it on social media. They're looking to see what's going on. We are awaiting the President of the United States States to tell us what he will do with the omnibus spending bill. And we are hearing from the Associated Press that he may sign it. So as we await together, we are watching the White House on the left side of your screen, and we're bringing in our journalists now to tell us what's in this bill. We have seen establishment, mainstream is kind of how they're talked about within the Republican Party, touting all the different things that they got in this bill. But it is huge. $1.3 trillion of our taxpayer money spent on a whole host of different things. The president did get some of what he wanted, and that defense spending, Jennifer, is so much a part of what this president said he wanted in this. He'd heard so much. But now you're saying that Defense Secretary Mattis is basically coming back with, we're going to lose that. It's potentially going to go by the wayside. Your thoughts?
Harris, remember that inside this spending, the defense spending part of this omnibus bill is a 3% pay raise for the troops. That's the largest pay raise for troops in the last decade. That is very important right now for morale. It's something the president ran on. It's something his constituents in the military expect. You also have a situation, remember, just a few years ago in 2011, the budget caps that capped the defense spending at $568 billion. Those were lifted in order to get the government running again just months ago. And that is when Congress went to work to try and find money to rebuild the military that's been hurt so much in the last few years. And that's where you got this figure of $700 billion. It's a large amount, but that is because the defense budget had been cut so severely as a result of those budget caps and sequester, Harris.
You know what's so interesting in this, though? The president saying that he is looking at DACA recipients and the wall that he wants to build, the wall system, that is it's a contribution, if you will, of more fence line, reinforced fence line, and more Border Patrol presence and other things that he would like to see, the Visa lottery program and so on and so forth. He says that because that money is not in there to fully fund it, that's one of the things that he would take issue with and consider a veto. And now we're looking inside the diplomatic room inside the White House right now, because your screen just changed. So I want everybody to know this, particularly those broadcast stations that are watching. The minute the president steps up, we will go to him live here. But Jennifer Griffin, as part of that national defense, the president is saying the wall system is part of that. And dealing with the illegal immigrants among us and offering them some sort of answer, those DACA recipients, is also part of that conversation.
Well, we heard from Senator Tim Kaine, a Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, say earlier that that Democrats and Republicans had come to the president with a DACA fix. It was going to be to fully fund the wall for $25 billion, and that was rejected. So this is just a little late in the process. The Congress has already left. We have 40 members of Congress who are at Representative Louise Slaughter's funeral right now. They left on military aircraft. They're not in Washington. They cannot be called back right now. So it's just, this is a little late in the process to begin talking about DACA. That ship sailed a few weeks ago.
Jennifer Griffin, stand by as our journalist at the Pentagon. We will come back as warranted. Thank you. I want to bring in a guest now. Mark Lauder is the former special assistant to President Trump and a former spokesperson for Vice President Mike Pence. Mark, we're watching the situation. It started by tweet today with, I'm considering a veto from President Trump, and if we can, we'll put that up on the screen. But then we got another tweet just a short time ago about this news conference. Your reaction?
Well, I was at the White House yesterday, and I traveled with the vice president last night to New Hampshire, and it was widely known among many of the senior staff that I stay in contact with that the president was not a fan of this big omnibus bill because it didn't address the things that he said that he wanted addressed with DACA, with border security, money for the wall, but he did get some things out of it, and particularly as it comes to the military, fighting the opioid addiction, and with infrastructure. While I don't know what the president will do here in a few moments, I would not be surprised if he does sign it, because it is so critical to our military and being able to project American strength abroad, especially as we deal with the threats that we face in Iran, North Korea, and growing aggression in Russia. But I also would expect that the president probably addressed the leadership in Congress and said that he expects them to come back to the table when they return in a few weeks to deal with border issues, to deal with DACA and get it done.
Yeah, you talk about what Congress can and cannot get done with a deadline. And what you lose is when these things are gone, you can ask them to come back in a few weeks. But Mark, you and I both know that that doesn't ever work out exactly the way as a deadline pushes them. But I want to talk about the politics of the moment and how the president is handling it, because this steals a lot of power from the Democrats, I would imagine, taking the issue of DACA and putting it in a tweet and making it first and saying he's willing to look at that issue, even when Democrats weren't willing to put it in this bill.
And we've seen it time and time again. The president has made multiple offers to the Democrats in order to get the border funding, which includes a variety of options on dealing with the Dreamers. And the president said on the day that he signed the order rescinding the program that he wanted to deal with the Dreamers compassionately. He wanted to deal with them fairly, but we cannot get the Democrats to come to the table and do it. And I believe a lot of people have noted this. I don't think the Democrats want to get a DACA deal done. They would rather use it for campaign purposes than rather than just solve the policy issue, and so we can all move forward together.
So that's one side of the political aisle. But this is complicated for those so-called establishment Republicans. We saw some of them getting out ahead of this. Speaker Paul Ryan in the House and Senate Majority Leader Senator Mitch McConnell. You know, with this, these are the reasons why we're signing $1.3 trillion in spending, which really only gets us through September on some issues. But I'm curious, how did they then come back and say the president put some things on the table that we didn't even have in this bill?
I think one of the key reasons, and I heard the vice president referring to this last night at a political fundraiser in New Hampshire, is that for conservatives who are not happy with this $1.3 trillion omnibus, and there are many who are out there who are not happy about this, the answer is to send more Republicans to Congress. More Democrats is not the answer. It's going to get you more spending. But the way government works, the way Washington works right now, is that we have to deal with whatever the cards that are dealt with us in terms of getting a deal done. So you've got to work with Democrats to get it through the Senate. You've got to deal with some Democrats to get it passed in the House. Until we can have enough conservatives, Republicans in Capitol Hill, we're still going to have to do these kinds of deals. And so as we look to 2018, I think this puts the president and the Republicans in a stronger position.
This is what the president said that he would do, that he would take on what he calls the swamp. And he's not the only one who calls it that, but it certainly has been in the crosshairs of much of his rhetoric on the campaign, and also what he said since then as president. He sees not deals getting done, but the sort of the continuation of how it's always been done on Capitol Hill. So he's stepping in here and saying he's considering vetoing what just got passed in the House, and the Senate stayed up, until the wee hours to try to get this done so that the government would not shut down. And he's willing to take all of that on politically, to look at it square and say, yeah, we have some things that are not in here and we need to talk about this. But on the flip side is Defense Secretary Mattis saying this may be one of the best deals that we're going to get in a decade for things like pay raises for our military. So there are some things in it that the president might be grappling with.
I think that's right. And I think that's one of the reasons why, and a lot of my friends who are still in the White House have been saying, is that the president all week has not been a fan of this bill. He likes various parts of it, but not the complete package. And I think it does provide the opening. Just the threat that the president issued this morning, and if he does go ahead and sign it here in a few minutes, I think it puts him in a very powerful position to be able to call on Congress to quickly act, do a DACA deal, get the border funding, provide the money for more border agents and immigration reform that he's been talking about for months.
So interesting.
If he vetoes it, but if he vetoes it, then obviously you're going to have a government shutdown. Yeah. And now the negotiations change in that respect. So I think just being able to get Congress to sit down and focus is the president using leverage that he is a master at doing.
Mark Lauder, I want to remind everybody as they join us now via Fox broadcast stations and also Fox News Channel viewers who are seeing it in social media, get to your TV, the president's about to speak. To the left of your screen is a lectern that they have set up in the diplomatic room. We thought this was going to happen in the White House press briefing room because there was a White House press briefing that was scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern. Then the president sent out a tweet just a short time ago during the noon Eastern hour saying that there would be a news conference, and we learned that he would be the point person on that back and forth with the correspondents who've gathered in the room now, the diplomatic room. at the White House concerning the omnibus spending bill. That keeps the government funded and opened beyond midnight tonight. The president says that that would be at 1 p.m. Eastern. We've scooted a little past that, but we are watching. It took a minute for those journalists to move from the White House press briefing room. They got a call. You got to get to the other room. So they are gathered there. And we understand that this will be a conversation, a Q&A, a press availability with the President of the United States on the taxpayer money, $1.3 trillion, and why he would consider vetoing that bill, and what are the things ahead of him in terms of getting Democrats and Republicans to work together, deal with DACA, deal with the national defense and the border wall and the border system, those issues. He wants those things on the table. Remember, Democrats said they wanted DACA recipients on the table too. Why isn't that the case? So we're watching for the president to tell us what he will do. And I want to bring Mark Lauder back into the picture now, if he's still with us. Mark, if you're there, because you were at the White House just yesterday, and you can tell us the tone and tenor of this president on the very issues.
Now, I didn't speak with the president yesterday, but I did obviously spend time with some of the senior staff and with the vice president. And the focus is always the same. It's what are we doing to advance the president's agenda? The president made a commitment to build a wall. He has been very clear on his expectations for that. He has talked about wanting to deal with dreamers as well. And so there is a deal to be made if Democrats will come to work for it. So all of these larger pictures, all of these larger issues, we will deal with them. The president will make the decision he's going to make here in just a few moments. But I can tell you yesterday and really almost in all of my communications with my former colleagues, they are always focused on the president wanting to deliver his promises. And this is a promise he made to the American people.
Let's talk about the congressional side of this. Because you've got members who have gone for Representative Slaughter's funeral. They got on military planes. They are out of the picture at this point, so you'd have to call them back to keep the government from shutting down if they were in any hopes of putting together some sort of spending gap bill. Because if the president vetoes this, it goes into government shutdown. You've got those members, but I'm wondering, you're forecasting, as the Associated Press is also, that he will likely sign this bill, but he'll sign it with a lot of comment and a lot of questions, and that'll put what? Pressure on Congress, correct?
Yes. And we don't know, and hopefully I'm sure the president, when he announces the decision that he's going to make, whether he signs it or vetoes it, will give more information to the American people. But I'm not aware, and I don't know if, did he speak to the speaker this morning? Did he speak to the leader or the minority party leaders and extract any kind of a commitment from them to be able to bring back these issues when they come back in 2 weeks? Those are the kinds of things that I don't personally know. It wouldn't be surprising if he did do those things, and hopefully he'll provide that information to us when he comes to the podium here in a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the questions that after he makes whatever signing or doesn't sign whatever statement he's going to make, those correspondents in the room are John Roberts, chief White House correspondent among them now at the diplomatic room inside the White House, will likely ask this president. Mark, before I let you slide out of the picture, and we're all going to watch this together now, waiting for the president to step up and tell us exactly what he's decided on this big spending bill, whether he will veto or not. You know, we have been talking about this issue now of DACA and the Dreamers for months. We knew that there was a deadline, and now we've slid past that in early March, that would give them more comfort, if you will, for lack of a better term, in knowing what their immigrant status was going to be. It seems like this president is willing to take that issue on even more than Democrats.
Absolutely, and right now, to your earlier point, Harris, when the courts got involved and basically put a hold on this process, they removed the deadline. And as you said, when Congress doesn't face a deadline, they're not as likely to act. So right now, we are in that zone where there's really nothing going to happen because of the courts. But this is a president who doesn't want to wait. He is a leader who wants things done yesterday. He gave Congress 6 months to get this worked out. We've still not been able to do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is what he views as the opportunity to finally push this across the line, get it done for the Dreamers, get it done for border security, to stop the drugs, the gang members coming into our neighborhoods, and to provide a sense of calm and peace to those people who are here, the DACA recipients, who have been working hard, living the American dream, staying out of trouble, and who do, in the president's view, deserve the right to be able to continue to contribute to our society.
Is some 600,000 to 800,000 of them, but also the president offering 1.8 million. The certainty of some sort of cover, and that would include family members, more nuclear family members around the kitchen table that we always talk about with those Dreamers. Mark Lotter, thank you for your experience and perspective on this. I'm going to bring in now Congressman Chris Stewart, Republican from Utah, and also just to let you know that we have a wider audience today, Congressman, here on Outnumbered Overtime as we await the president. Our Fox broadcast stations are with us as well. You voted against this huge omnibus spending bill because it is so large.
Well, there's a number of reasons. One of them is the debt that we have to certainly encounter and deal with at some point. But part of it is what the president has expressed concerns about. I mean, why in the world are we going to push DACA down the road, and not finally deal with it? I mean, I've been talking with media a number of times saying it appears to me the Democrats would much rather have the politics and have the argument than actually solve it. And who in the world would object to securing our borders, securing our southern borders? And it appears, I don't know what the president's going to do, and none of us want a shutdown, but it appears that he's willing to push back on us. And frankly, Congress should be responsive to that. We can do better than this, Harris.
So as we look ahead, I mean, we don't know exactly what the president will do. We just talked with Mark Lotter. He was at the White House just yesterday evening, met with the vice president and other senior staff at the White House, and said that the tone and tenor was that the president was really insisting on knowing all the answers about this, all the options about this, and that today we learned that he would consider a veto. How surprised are you that we are in this position, and what kinds of conversations are conservatives like yourself, those more conservative fiscally members of the House and Senate, saying to this president?
Yeah, you know, I'm not terribly surprised, but I wish we would have had this conversation with the president a week ago. Because once again, I think if he had said, I will veto this spending bill if it does not include these things, it would have given us the energy and the momentum to perhaps include them previous to voting on the bill. And once again, I don't think anyone wants a shutdown, and I think the last people who want to shut down are the Democrats, especially over this issue. Are they not going to support DACA? Are they going to, again, another second Schumer shutdown? It's the last thing in the world they want. But we need, unfortunately, Congress is just a body that you need a pressure point too often to get it to work. And maybe this pressure point will be provided by this president. Look, if we shut the government down for the weekend, I would be happy with that if at the end of the day we get, well, yeah, for a few days, if at the end of that we could have border security and we could fix this DACA problem. It's not the end of the world to shut the government down for a few hours, but these are issues that are going to stay with us for a long, long time. And I just feel it's better if we could get it off the table and deal with it.
Yeah, and I want to talk to that optic of kicking the can down the road too. It's like the back of a VW just married. I mean, we see these issues like military, which is very important. We know that Defense Secretary Mattis talked with the president earlier today in the morning hours, saying, look, if you're considering a veto, please know that 2.4 to 3% pay hike that troops will get, that kind of language, that kind of money spent on those resources, those human resources, is better than what we've seen in a decade. So please know that puts this in jeopardy. By the way, Congressman, just in our talk, we're learning that we're inside now of a 2-minute warning of the president stepping up, the president of the United States stepping up. Will he sign the omnibus spending bill? I want to get some quick thoughts from you before he makes it into the room.
Well, it's hard for me to project because, once again, this is a bit of a surprise for all of us. I think that the issues he's highlighting are worth highlighting. If he ends up signing it, I'm glad that he did this anyway, just to emphasize to the American people that he is trying to fix these things, and Congress has not been willing or able to do that up to this point, and we should.
You know, there has been criticism of this president recently of the chaotic nature and the job hires that he's moving around the table. He's replacing a Secretary of State. He's replacing his national security advisor. He's making a lot of changes. He forecast this a couple of weeks ago, saying, I want to get the cabinet that I want. I'm quoting him, and other things that I want. This fits in that category of going after the swamp, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And you know what? There's very little this president could do that I think surprises.
The President of the United States. Let's watch and listen together.
Thank you very much, everybody. We have a lot of good news to report. Some tremendous trade deals are being made with various countries. We're negotiating very long, very hard, but very quickly. And the deal with South Korea is, according to Secretary Ross and Bob Lighthizer, is very close to being finished. And we're going to have a wonderful deal with a wonderful ally. We're getting very close to it. It was a deal that was causing a lot of problems for our country in terms of employment and in terms of lots of other things. I might ask Secretary Ross to just say a few words about that, and then we're going to get on to this ridiculous situation that took place over the last week. So, Secretary Ross.
Thank you, Mr. President. We believe we are relatively close to a pretty comprehensive resolution with the South Korean government. It will encompass, if it goes through, both the 232s and broader trade issues. And we hope by sometime next week to be able to have a real announcement.
Thank you very much, Wilbur. I appreciate it. The last time we negotiated something like this, and as you know, it's always been a problem for our country, they get together and they create a series of documents that nobody's been able to read because it was just done. Now, you tell me who can read that quickly. It takes a long time to read it. For the last 8 years, deep defense cuts have undermined our national security. Howled our, and they just, if you look at what's taken out, they've hollowed our readiness as a military unit and put America at really grave risk. My highest duty is to keep America safe. Nothing more important. The omnibus bill reverses this dangerous defense. As crazy as it's been, as difficult as it's been, as much opposition to the military as we've had from the Democrats, and it has been tremendous. I try to explain to them, you know, the military is for Republicans and Democrats and everybody else. It's for everybody. But we have tremendous opposition to creating really what will be by far the strongest military that we've ever had. We've had that from the Democrats. So if we take something for the military, they want something for, in many cases, things that are really a wasted sum of money. And it's not right, and it's very bad for our country. We're looking to do funding for our final fight in certain areas. As you know, we've gotten just about 100% of our land back from ISIS. We have troop increases necessary to accomplish what we have to do, and we have, very importantly, a pay increase for our troops. And this will be actually the largest pay increase for our incredible people in over a decade. It increases total defense spending by more than $60 billion from last year and funds the addition of critically needed ships, planes, helicopters, tanks, and submarines. We have submarines being built, the likes of which there's nothing anywhere in the world like the submarines we build. Our military equipment is the best equipment in the world. And one of the things you saw 2 days ago with Saudi Arabia and with other countries, Saudi Arabia, as an example, is buying hundreds of billions of dollars worth of our equipment. And we're getting very fast approvals on that. Therefore, as a matter of national security, I've signed this omnibus budget bill. There are a lot of things that I'm unhappy about in this bill. There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. There are some things that we should have in the bill. But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. Nobody read it. It's only hours old. Some people don't even know what it is. $1.3 trillion. It's the second largest ever. President Obama signed one that was actually larger, which I'm sure he wasn't too happy with either. But in this case, it became so big because we need to take care of our military. And because the Democrats, who don't believe in that, added things that they wanted in order to get their votes. We have to get rid of the filibuster rule. We have to get rid of the filibuster rule and go to 51 votes in the Senate if we're going to have really sustained, continued success. DACA recipients have been treated extremely badly by the Democrats. We wanted to include DACA. We wanted to have them in this bill. 800,000 people. And actually, it could even be more. And we wanted to include DACA in this bill. The Democrats would not do it. They would not do it. To prevent the omnibus situation from ever happening again, I'm calling on Congress to give me a line item veto for all government spending bills, and the Senate must end. They must end the filibuster rule and get down to work. We have to get a lot of great legislation approved, and without the filibuster rule, it'll happen just like magic. I want to address the situation on border security, which I call national defense. I call it stopping drugs from pouring across our border. And I call it illegal immigration. It's all of those things. But national defense is a very important two words, because by having a strong border system, including a wall, we are in a position militarily that is very advantageous. And before I get off of that subject, I'd like to ask Secretary Mattis to talk about what we've accomplished in terms of the military, because there has never been anything like we've been able to do. Our military is very depleted, but it's rapidly getting better. And in a short period of time, it will be stronger than it has ever been. So I'd like to ask Secretary Mattis to say a few words, please. Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1790, in George Washington's first annual address to Congress, he stated, "To be prepared for war is one of the most effective means of preserving the peace." As the President noted, today we receive the largest military budget in history, reversing many years of decline and unpredictable funding. And together, we are going to make our military stronger than ever. We in the military are humbled and grateful to the American people for their sacrifices on behalf of this funding. Now it's our responsibility in the military to spend every dollar wisely in order to keep the trust and the confidence of the American people and the Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, General. The border, we've worked very hard on. We have a lot of, really by any standard, a lot, but not by this standard, but we're going to make it go a long way. We have a lot of money coming to the border, and it will be coming over a period of time. We funded the initial down payment of $1.6 billion. We're going to be starting work literally on Monday on not only some new wall, not enough, but we're working on that very quickly, but also fixing existing walls and existing acceptable fences. There are some areas that you have to see through. You have to be able to see through the other side in order to see what's coming. And in many cases, it's not a pretty picture when you look, but you have to be able to see it. So we have $1.6 billion for the wall. That'll start immediately. This is a short-term funding, but it's immediate, starts immediately. And I'd like to ask Secretary Nielsen to say a few words about what we've done in terms of Homeland Security and what the bill does for Homeland Security. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We at the Department of Homeland Security work very closely with the Department of Defense, and we support this omnibus in the defense of our country. As the President has stated, under his leadership, he has delivered for the American people. This is a down payment on a border wall system. This is a 10% increase for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This will help us improve our aviation security with some badly needed upgrades, and we look forward to working with Congress on additional needs that we have. I will say, however, that it's unfortunate that Congress chose not to listen to the men and women of DHS and those on the front lines. They told us how to build the wall, where to build the wall, and we will continue to work with them to make sure that the wall is where we need it, how we need it, as the President described, and to make sure that it serves the American people and serves the security of this nation. We also will continue to work with Congress to close the dangerous loopholes that the President has mentioned many times, and to continue to increase our overall security. And finally, we thank those in Congress who support the Department of Homeland Security. I will continue to make myself available to them. I look forward to working with them, but we must fund the department and give it the tools and resources it needs to execute the mission the American people have asked us to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary. So we have many elements in the bill that we wanted. Just to look at a few of them, we're providing $654.6 billion in total discretionary funding for defense. It's a record, all records for defense. There will be nobody that says that our military is going to be depleted like they've been saying over the last long period of time, frankly, beyond President Obama. That won't be happening. We're spending a lot of money on nuclear, our nuclear systems, to upgrade, and in some cases brand new, whether it's submarines, nuclear submarines, and others. So we'll have by far the most powerful nuclear force on Earth, and it'll be absolutely in perfect shape and condition, and hopefully, praise be to God, we don't ever have to use it. But there will be nobody that's even close. This will give a substantial increase to people even outside of the military, but military related. Some of the many things that we're buying in the military, we have $23.8 billion to procure 34 Navy ships. Our Navy is at about the lowest point in terms of ships that it's been in over 100 years. And we're adding a significant number of extremely advanced vessels. $10.2 billion for 90 F-35 aircraft. That's the most sophisticated aircraft in the world, jet fighters, total stealth. They're hard to find, they're hard to see, therefore they're hard to beat. It's very tough to beat a plane when you can't see it. It's the most advanced in the world. $10.2 billion for 90 F-35. We have $2.9 billion for 15 KC-46 tanker aircraft. The tanker aircraft is very important based on everything. It allows our planes to travel anywhere in the world without landing. $1.8 billion for 24 FA-18EF Super Hornet aircraft fighter jets. $1.7 billion for 10 PA, the Poseidons. Incredible stuff. $1.1 billion for 56 UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters, most advanced helicopter in the world by far, fighting machine. $1.1 billion for the upgrade of 85 Abrams tanks. $705 million for the cooperative programs that we're working with Israel and others on various missile defense systems. We're spending a lot of money on missile defense. We have a lot of offense that's been recently installed. We're spending tremendous money on missile defense. You understand what that means. Everybody does. With what we have out there, missile defense is very, very important. We are funding our Border Patrol agents and our ICE agents. They are working long hours under tremendously dangerous conditions. We're adding large numbers of immigration judges, high-quality judges. Not only are we adding them in the district court level and the federal level of Court of Appeals, but we're adding immigration judges at a very high level. So while we're very disappointed in the $1.3 trillion, nobody more disappointed than me because the number is so large, it'll start coming down. We had no choice but to fund our military because we have to have by far the strongest military in the world. And this will be by far the strongest military that we've ever had. So when you look at all of these pages, a lot of that is devoted, a lot, to the military. I just want to thank members of Congress for working so hard. While we can be disappointed in some ways, we have to also know that there are a lot of strings pulling everybody in different directions. The Republican senators, the Republican congressmen and women have been steadfast on their fight for the border and steadfast for their fight on the military. We're also spending $6 billion on, as you know, various forms of drug control, helping people that are addicted. It's a terrible problem, but this will be a record. We'll be suing certain drug companies for what they've done with the opioids, and we'll be bringing the suits at a federal level. The level of drugs that are being put out there and the power of this addiction is hard to believe. People go to the hospital for a period of a week and they come out, they're drug addicts. There has to be a better way. Doctors are way down now in their orders of the opioids, way down. That's a great thing. We're also looking for, in our research funds, we're looking for a medicine that can stop the pain without the addiction so that people aren't going to become addicted to these incredible drugs. So that's part of what we have. We're going to have $6 billion in having to do with opioids and other problems that this country, and in fact the world, is having with drugs. So we're extremely proud of what we've been able to do when it comes to our military. Our military will be far superior than to any military anywhere in the world. That's very important for us. You see the players out there. You see what we're dealing with. We are very happy with what's happened with opioids. We're very happy with what's happened with certain elements of the border. Not happy with $1.6 billion, but it does start the wall, and we will make that $1.6 billion go very, very far. It's going to go very far. I can tell you this, and I say this to DACA recipients, that the Republicans are with you. They want to get your situation taken care of. The Democrats fought us. They just fought every single inch of the way. They did not want DACA in this bill. And as you know, DACA is also tied to the wall for the major funding, the $25 billion for wall and other things. So I think that'll be coming up very soon. But I do want the Hispanic community to know and DACA recipients to know that Republicans are much more on your side than the Democrats, who are using you for their own purposes. With that being said, I just want to thank everybody for being here. We're very proud of many of the items that we've been able to get. We're very disappointed that in order to fund the military, we had to give up things where we consider, in many cases, them to be bad or them to be a waste of money. But that's the way, unfortunately, right now the system works. But we have a great country. We are going to have the greatest military we've ever had, and lots of good things are happening. The trade situation we'll be talking about next week. We have many trade deals, not only the deal being made on South Korea, which looks like it's very close to being finalized, but many other countries are now negotiating fair trade deals with us. So we'll be rolling them out as you see them. And part of the reason, frankly, that we're able to do that is the fact that we have the tariffs on steel and the tariffs on aluminum, because it showed how unfair some of these trade deals that have been in existence for many years, how unfair they've been. So it'll be great for our country, and frankly, it'll also be great for other countries. And it will be fair, and it will be reciprocal. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
You had to sign the bill. Well, you'll figure it out in about 20 minutes after you look at it. Okay? We're going to figure it out. You're going to figure that out. We looked at it, a veto. I looked very seriously at the veto. I was thinking about doing the veto, but because of the incredible gains that we've been able to make for the military, that overrode any of our thinking. How concerned are you about the impact of the tariffs on the stock market?
Well, I think the stock market's going to be great. I mean, look, the stock market's way up. When I came into office, the stock market was from a different planet. It's way up. China is going to end up treating us fairly. For many years, they had free rein. They don't have free rein anymore. We're very friendly with China. We have great relationships with China. And look, it's time. It's time. Last year, we lost $500 billion on trade with China. We can't let that happen. Thank you all very much.
Secretary Schultz is lying about the affair.
So the president leaving the diplomatic room and telling reporters there who were shouting questions at him why he looked at vetoing the large spending bill, which would keep the government open. But he is going to sign it now. He said, I looked at vetoing and the military gains overrode anything gained by a veto. Very important to note. He brought in his defense secretary. He had the Department of Homeland Security secretary with him there. They each stepped to the microphone and spoke for a moment as well to talk about specifically those military gains, those national defense gains, and some things that were not in there with the border wall system, but the funding that is. The president says that fixing areas of the border wall fence system that we already have right now will start immediately on Monday with the $1.6 billion, far short of what he wanted, but with the money that's in this bill that he's about to sign. Also, new building on a wall system will begin on Monday, or immediately, as he put it. So reporters continuing to shout out some questions there. Will we see you sign the bill? He answered back in about 20 minutes or so. So that's the diplomatic room inside the White House, carrying the president's comments today about why he even would veto a bill. He says that things are broken in Congress and that he wants a line item veto so he can cross through with a red pen those issues for spending bills from here on out. Will he get that? We'll cover the news as it happens. Please stay tuned to this Fox News channel and Fox broadcast station for continuing coverage. I'm Harris Faulkner in New York. Let's bring in now former White House press secretary and Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer. So, Ari, we just watched the president do exactly what he said he'd do on Twitter, and that's have this press availability and say what he would do with the omnibus spending bill. Your thoughts?
Well, he sure knows how to create drama. A lot of more people tuned in to see will he or won't he sign it. But let me tell you this, Harris. He is 110% right about the filibuster. The filibuster is the root cause of this mess. There is a reason that it's just one giant, no one reads it, omnibus bill to fund everything in the government. And if you don't sign it, the whole government shuts down. It's because the minority party, and both parties have done it, threatens to filibuster each of the individual appropriation bills that are supposed to fund the government. Our system actually can work if it's not filibustered. But because you can get leverage over filibustering it one bill at a time, so the government doesn't get its money, the Department of Agriculture gets its money, the Department of Commerce gets its money. If you don't do it one at a time, you can get leverage by holding the entire government funding hostage. And that's what the filibuster does. The Democrats filibustered, in effect, every single individual bill. That should be abolished. It is a cause of good government now to abolish the filibuster, fund the government one chunk at a time, the old-fashioned way, and end this madness where we have bills that no one reads, and if you don't sign them, everything shuts down.
You know, it's interesting because if people hadn't heard the terminology filibuster in a while and understood how the president plays a role in all of this, he spelled it out. Let's watch it together.
We have to get rid of the filibuster rule and go to 51 votes in the Senate if we're going to have really sustained, continued success. We have to get a lot of great legislation approved, and without the filibuster rule, it'll happen just like magic.
You know, I kind of took that as maybe language for the swamp, if you will, Ari.
Well, I'm not sure it'll happen like magic because you still have to get your own party to support you when you only have 51 senators. That's not easy to do. But the principle he's pointing to is correct. The filibuster has been misused, Harris. It used to be it was used for the most momentous moments in American history, the most significant legislation that could really change the future of a country. Now it's used for every routine item everywhere on everything. Look, you can't get to 60 votes in the Senate. And so the filibuster just rewards those who block and who want to just throw mud in the process and never get things done. If you don't want to get things done, if you want to block everything, the filibuster's for you. If you believe that majority rule should prevail, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans in charge, let majority rule prevail. That's a good reform. It's the right thing to do for both parties. And as a Republican, if the Democrats take control, this should apply to them too.
You know,
for action, not inaction, regardless of who's in charge.
Ari, you talk about you know, building heat before a conversation that the president wanted to have with the United States by Twitter and so on and so forth. But he scooped up on a busy Friday as people head into their weekends something very important. He talked about the military in ways that we don't often hear it talked about. I mean, we heard in detail their needs. We know not only did he have a conversation with the Defense Secretary Mattis, we know the kind of money that's on the table to keep our people safe while they keep the rest of us safe.
No question, and I think that's one of the benefits the president had today in being able to create this suspense. He brought people's attention to the problems of military cutbacks and how dire it has been. But remember, it only got that way because the two parties couldn't agree on spending initiatives before. So by default, they set up this system of draconian cuts in both domestic and military spending. Those draconian cuts actually went through in 2011, and now they're undone here in 2018. It went too far in terms of the military. So if you were pro-military, it's a good day to see it signed. If you're pro-government reform, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I would like to know how Democrats will react to the president throwing down the gauntlet, because now he sets, let's move on now and talk about DACA. He sets the conversation, Ari. He says, look, I'm going to do this because, and he didn't use this word, but it is about the swamp. I mean, it is about everybody spending everybody else's money. So I'll do this, but keep in mind, he's still the lone voice out there fighting for those dreamers. I'm hearing crickets from the Democrats right now.
Well, it's frustrating, isn't it? You know, and I'm the son of an immigrant who came to this country, and I want a DACA deal. And there's such a compromise that's so easy for everybody to see, except if you're an elected official, I suppose. And that compromise is the DACA kids should be allowed to stay. Their status should be legal. They should no longer have to worry about deportation. And Trump should get the money for the wall. Look, walls work. I was just in San Diego yesterday. I don't see the Democrats saying tear down that wall. Walls are effective. And the only reason they're against it is because Donald Trump is for it. The compromise is that there should be money to build the wall where the experts say the wall should go. And DACA kids should be able to stay in this country legally.
All right, you've been working in the White House in your career. You know what it's like when a president makes up his mind, so far his, maybe one day her, his mind about where he's going. Have you ever seen it like this? The president knew what he wanted, and it looked like he was looking down a little bit, maybe some notes there. He had everybody with him to go forward, but he taught a lesson to the American people today about things like filibuster, so on and so forth. Your last words.
You know, My take is Donald Trump, as a businessman and as an outsider, still sees his role as being the outsider in Washington, even though he's the president. He's frustrated. He doesn't like the way the system works. He made a compromise with himself today to sign something that I think that his instinct told him, veto it, force the confrontation, and get DACA done. But ultimately, he went along. And I think that's part of the fascination of watching Donald Trump. When he picks his fights, how far does he go? When does he pull back? He's still very much of an outsider president, and I don't think, Harris, that is ever going to change.
Ari Fleischer, on this Friday, big breaking news with the president. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. Let's talk more. Conservative radio talk show host Tammy Bruce is here. Former Ohio Senate Minority Leader Capri Cafaro is here. I want to get a Democrats' response to all of this, because I saw you kind of nodding along. Talk to me.
I think that this is very interesting, and it is just vintage Donald Trump. And here's why. Number one, what he did is he did draw us in with the suspense, right? Saying, okay, will he or won't he? And what he did was he utilized the captive audience to say a few things. Number one, to basically take the narrative, back to say, we want basically a laundry list of, congressional reforms from a procedural standpoint. And also the reason why, there's so much spending. Basically, he also took the opportunity to basically frame the narrative as blaming the Democrats. The reason why we had to spend all of this stuff is because, number one, I believe in national security, but number two, we couldn't get those things because the Democrats wouldn't agree to them unless we gave them all this stuff. I do think effective. I mean, I think that there are some challenges, for example, with getting a line item veto, since it is constitutional, Article 1, Section 7, and the Supreme Court actually said it's unconstitutional in 1998.
But now we're talking about it.
But that's right.
Right? Okay.
He took the narrative back, so that is successful on his part.
So our Chad Pergam on Capitol Hill says even if the Senate were to eliminate the filibuster, which isn't supported by senators, by the way, according to Chad, Republicans would only have 50 votes now with the absence of Senator John McCain. How did the president take the narrative, as Capri is saying, and take this and put it in a place where Americans can say, you know what, I get it, it's the swamp?
Yeah, and look, this goes through 6 months. Of course, then we've got the midterms in November, so this will pop back, of course, September, October. And this is another argument about if you're taking seriously this agenda and our policies, you've got to go out and vote so that we can actually get this done. Otherwise, this is what you're facing. Remember also, today is the 8th anniversary of the signing of the Affordable Care Act, another bill that no one read. So he says he will never do it again, and that was a line that he will stand by, which means the fight after 6 months is going to be very aggressive, and I trust him. Look, I think this is a world heading toward war. John Bolton is now the national security advisor. The other message today is what we're facing this year is something serious enough to where he has to do this with the military. We do want that. It's not just because to make ourselves feel better. It's because of what we're facing on the ground around this globe.
You know, you talk about those 2,232 pages, which I had, House members tell me just in the last 24 hours, Harris, even if we stayed up all night long, we didn't get it till 8:30, we wouldn't have read all of it.
They did. This is not a new novel that they've just put out and given to the president.
It's novel length.
It's novel length, but this is something that, imagine, a lot of cutting and pasting. So arguably, maybe Barack Obama and his friends did write this bill. So this is what the president has pledged to not let happen again, and this is what he's going to have to work on for the next 6 months.
Can he get that done? Because obviously we do have 3 separate branches of government, and I think he's sending a very strong message, as you said, that he wants to drain the swamp. But I mean, will Congress let him do it?
What's interesting about this, and I don't do a lot of yeah buts because I don't really get a vote, but I would just insert this in there, Capri. The president now has also framed a midterm election talking.
Absolutely.
That's exactly my point.
And it's something that matters to every American. Because you take money from our paychecks and you do what with it?
So look at the time.
You do what with it?
6 months.
We didn't get what, but we got this, but we got that.
Right.
Look, I grew up military. You're never going to hurt my feelings by giving our men and women in the field pay raises.
And most Americans feel like that. And most Americans feel
I totally get that. But when the president says President Obama signed one larger than this bill, and I'm sure he wasn't happy about it either. Tammy?
Well, but see, he also knows that we want business not as usual. So I don't care who's happy and who's not happy, but if someone's going to change this process, it's going to be Trump.
All right. Thank you, Tammy Capri, for being here. A big breaking news hour. Thank you for watching Outnumbered Overtime on this fine Friday. I invite you to look at the bottom of your screen for our handle, and I'll see you online. For now, I'm Harris. Here's Dana.
It's Sandra, and this is a Fox News alert. President Trump has signed a $1.3 trillion spending bill after earlier threatening to veto it. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith in for Dana Perino this afternoon, and this is the Daily Briefing. The signing of the bill averts a government shutdown, which loomed as a possibility after President Trump threatened earlier to veto it. But he made clear he sees the bill as less than ideal and signed it only out of necessity.
There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. There are some things that we should have in the bill. But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. Nobody read it. It's only hours old.
We have Fox team coverage. National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin is at the Pentagon with the bill's impact on the military. But we begin with Doug McKelway live on the North Lawn, just outside where everything went down. Doug?
What another whirlwind roller coaster ride of an unpredictable day here at the White House yet again. And it began just at about 8:59 this morning when the president tweeted, unbeknownst to the full White House staff here, that he was indeed threatening to veto this omnibus bill. We know that all the staffers were caught blindsided by that. The president went ahead and did it, as is often his routine anyway. Now, in the interim is the fascinating period here, because we understand that at some point General Mattis, and perhaps Jennifer Griffin can shed some more light on this later when you go to her. General Mattis called the president and suggested that that would be an unwise decision, because it would threaten the military funding that the White House has so craved and that General Mattis has said is so badly needed. So the president went against his own instincts and then later called this press conference. It was not really a press conference. There was one brief question that was offered up to him later. But he met there with General Mattis, with the Secretary of Homeland Security and others as well, to describe why he went against his own instincts to sign this omnibus spending bill. The reason being that it provides more money to the military, more pay to the military, opportunity to upgrade our nuclear infrastructure, an opportunity to fund more F-35 fighters, and many other components of our military which have been so badly lacking over the past 8 years or so. But you could see in the president's face this afternoon that he was very displeased with it, as you said, and as he just said, that he will never do anything like this again. There had been earlier indications that Speaker of the House Paul Ryan had kept the president very much informed about the status of the negotiations with the omnibus spending bill, and that the president was very much enthused by it and was willing to sign it. That changed this morning at 9 o'clock. It changed again just before the 1 p.m. hour here, when the president said that he had already signed it but had done so reluctantly. So very difficult to try to predict what happens here at the White House. We know now that it is signed. A government shutdown has been averted. There were lots and lots of questions about whether or not that was going to happen. Here's a little bit of what the president had to say after the formal part of this was over and done with, and John Roberts had an opportunity to ask him a question.
We looked at it a veto. I looked very seriously at the veto. I was thinking about doing the veto, but because of the incredible gains that we've been able to make for the military, that overrode any of our thinking.
Anyway, so just another unpredictable day. Very difficult to tell what's going here. What is certain is that oftentimes the president makes these decisions unilaterally, oftentimes ignoring or rejecting the advice of those around him, to go it his own way. Sandra, back to you.
And it's still only 2 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Doug McKelway, thank you. President Trump cited the need for defense funding as the reason he signed the spending bill. National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin joins us now from the Pentagon. Jennifer?
Well, Sandra, the Defense Department tells us that Secretary Mattis did not call the president this morning, but he did go over there. He had lunch with the president, and it's very clear from the press conference that we just watched that Defense Secretary Mattis, who the president called General Mattis, had the president's ear in the end. Here's what he said.
Today we received the largest military budget in history, reversing many years of decline and unpredictable funding. And together, we are going to make our military stronger than ever. We in the military are humbled and grateful to the American people for their sacrifices on behalf of this funding. Now it's our responsibility in the military to spend every dollar wisely in order to keep the trust and the confidence of the American people and the Congress.
The president quoted a figure of $654 billion for defense. It's actually closer to $700 billion if you include the amount for overseas funding for the wars. That's approximately another $60 billion on top. So this $700 billion defense part of the budget is a very, very big move forward for the Pentagon. It's about $60 billion more than what they had last year. Remember, you used to have those spending caps, the sequester that had kept it capped for some time. Now the Pentagon will be getting billions of dollars for missile defense, for about 20 more missile interceptors out in California. They already have 44 in the ground there, but with the North Korea threat, they think they need more missile defense. There will be more submarines built, 2 more nuclear-powered submarines. The president mentioned those, 34 additional ships. Planes will be bought, helicopters, dozens of F-16s as well as F-18s and Black Hawk helicopters. So this is a period of reset for the military. It will include also the largest pay raise for military troops in over a decade, about 3% pay raise. But also important to point out, Sandra, that this bill was 2,232 pages long. The president himself said no one had had time to read it. It was clear the president had not read it. That would make it about twice as long as War and Peace. Sandra?
It was less than a 24-hour turnaround to that vote took place on the House floor. Jennifer, unbelievable. Thank you for your reporting on that. Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon. Let's bring in Fox News politics editor Chris Stirewalt, who's also editor of Halftime Report. Chris, the president made it very clear he was reluctant to sign this bill, but he did so for all of the reasons that Jennifer just mentioned. He made that very clear.
Well, and he also did it because he didn't want to have a daggone government shutdown tomorrow. And he didn't want to add further uncertainty to markets. He didn't want to further upset economic trends that are already a little roily because of the tariffs that we've imposed and China's going to impose. So things are a little whopper-jawed in that area. So there was a lot of incentive for both Republicans and Democrats to not have a fiscal fight right now and just kick the can and move on.
You know, what changed, though? The president, as you just heard Jennifer say as well, he's pointing out a fact that this was a 2,300-page bill, but he earlier supported this, did he not? And this came out Wednesday night at 8 p.m., only to then have that tweet from the president this morning threatening to veto it.
Well, he probably in hindsight, that wasn't maybe the best choice. But look, if you don't want to be late, you better start out on time. And for this administration and for this Congress, the reason that their budgeting process stinks is because they didn't start it the right way. They didn't start out on time. They have not been following the usual procedures. And to be fair, Washington hasn't followed usual procedures about spending your money since 2007. This has been chaotic budgeting. Fiscal cliffs, debt ceiling lifts, all of this garbage, a terrible way to run a government. And this has become the norm in Washington. And the Republicans, after taking control of both houses of Congress and the White House, after 8 years of preaching fiscal restraint, 8 years of preaching that they were going to do it the right way, in the end, do it the same way the Democrats did before them, which is hold your nose, dump it in, keep the government open, get things funded, and just we'll worry about it later.
A bit of a warning shot, though, there to Democrats by the president towards the end. He said, I will never sign anything like this ever again. I will not do it, the president said.
Well, then, if he wants, he could have a shutdown over it. Look, this is the way the system works. The way the system works is one side gets something and the other side gets something. Democrats are in the minority in the Senate, but they still have enough votes that they can block legislation. And that's how the system works, is then they got to get something. So the Republicans wanted a huge increase in military spending. OK, fine. What do the Democrats get in return? If you want those votes, those 9 votes that Democrats can withhold from them, if you want those votes, you got to give them something. That's how it works. But you know who never gets a vote? vote. My kids and their kids and the kids after that who are going to be paying off $22 trillion in debt that we have accrued because we find challenging political questions too hard to deal with, so we just have our cake and eat it too.
It's interesting. The president was asked about the stock market there when he was leaving the room, and stock markets, it's up 68 points right now, but sold off more than 700 points yesterday. We'll keep watching all of it. Chris Stirewalt, thank you.
You bet.
The House Judiciary calling for more information about former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and the role he played in the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Plus, President Trump shuffling up his legal team before a potential meeting with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. We'll speak to a former Assistant Director of the FBI about both of these topics next. Stay tuned.
I like his foreign policy. We need to up our game when it comes to Russia. But the more he gets into these food fights with a special counsel, the less effective he will be, I think, as commander-in-chief.
At Joseph A. Bank, save up to 60% off almost everything. All 1905 and executive sport coats, $149. All dress shirts, 2 for $89. Plus, get all traveler suits, $249. And find exactly what you're looking for. The up to 60% off sale, only at Joseph A. Bank.
We really were fortunate to get out when we did. Losing our family photos, our wedding pictures, can't replace it.
Can you imagine losing everything you've got? You realize that it's the little things in life that matter. Things that they thought were damaged and thrown away, all of a sudden they magically reappear. And you see the human spirit come back.
It's our pictures.
To be able to put you safely back in your home matters to us. People matter. People count. At Belfour, we're restoring more than property.
This is where life expresses itself as an endless flow of energy. Are you ready? Atlantis, Bahamas at heart.
Book by March 31st for the best summer rates at 1-800-ATLANTIS or AtlantisBahamas.com.
I'm just worried about the house and taking care of the boys. Zach! Talk to me.
It's for the house. I got a job.
It's okay. Dad took care of us.
Principal, we can help you plan for that.
Patrick woke up with a sore back, but he's got work to do. So he took a leave this morning. If he'd taken Tylenol, he'd be stopping for more pills right now. Only Aleve has the strength to stop tough pain for up to 12 hours with just one pill. Tylenol can't do that. Aleve. All day strong, all day long. Check this Sunday's paper for extra savings on products from Aleve.
Dear great-grandfather, you were persecuted and forced to flee the country of your birth, but you started a new life in a brand new world. When I built my ancestry family tree, I found your story. Then, my DNA test helped me reclaim the Portuguese citizenship you lost. I'm Joshua Berry, and this is my ancestry story.
Combine the most detailed DNA test with historical records for a deeper family story. Get started for free at Ancestry.com.
I know how busy you are. I've been there.
No time for losing weight and getting healthy? Nutrisystem has the answer.
I am on the go. I have 2 kids, I work, I do a ton of things.
For you busy moms, this is one thing you don't have to think about. You grab and you go.
I'm Laura, and I lost 30 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Introducing Turbo 13. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guaranteed.
I mean, the food is delivered to your door, and that's a real time saver.
It's your favorite foods made healthier.
It's easy to follow and super convenient.
Order your 28-day plan right now and get 1 week of meals free. Breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and snacks. That's 24 meals free. Plus, get 1 week of delicious turbo shakes with probiotics to help shrink your belly free.
Call Nutrisystem right now and do something good for you.
Go online or call 888-455-THIN right now and get 1 week of meals and shakes free.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115.
President Trump stating again yesterday he would like to speak with Special Counsel Robert Mueller and his team of investigators probing possible collusion with Russia. This as the president continues to shuffle his legal team, bringing in a couple new faces even as others leave. Let's bring in Chris Swecker, former assistant director of the FBI. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. A lot going on. And one of those things is the continued conversation about whether or not this president will decide to or be asked to sit down directly with Robert Mueller, should he?
Well, he's been all over the place on that issue. First, he thinks the special counsel doesn't need to exist, won't talk to him ever. Now he wants to talk to him. If I were his attorney, he's a nightmare client. If I were his attorney, I wouldn't let him anywhere near the special counsel. Now, having said that, I don't think the special counsel has to talk to him, doesn't need to talk to him. I think he's offering that up as a courtesy to the president to give him an opportunity to explain some things.
You know, we've obviously noted that he's shaking up his legal team ahead of this possible interview. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that the president is driving the strategy. I'm not sure he listens to the lawyers all that much, and I believe he wants people who fit with his mindset that this is a witch hunt. He's being framed. This is all, some political ploy to get him out of office and invalidate his presidency. Obviously, so I think he's picking people that obviously agree with that.
You're looking at members of his legal team, the two new additions, Joe Genova and Victoria Tenzing. These are obviously lawyers that have been very critical of this probe. It's going to be fascinating to watch how the strategy changes now with this new legal team in place.
Yeah, it is. And I think part of this is driven by a little bit of panic on the part of the president. It's very obvious, and I served directly under Director Mueller for 2.5 years as head of the criminal division. It's obvious to me that he's driving towards something bigger, and an indictment of some type. The fact that Flynn has not been sentenced and they're keeping him on ice, the same thing with Papadopoulos. That's what you do when you're moving up the ladder, if you will. So I'm not saying I know who will be indicted, but I think that Mueller is moving towards a much more significant indictment. And I think the president is getting a sense of that, and I think his legal team has a sense of that, and I think they're sort of circling the wagons, getting ready for their defense, because I think it's going to hit fairly close to the president. I don't think that Trump himself is in the actual crosshairs.
And Chris, I want to transition to this. Chairman Goodlatte now subpoenaing the DOJ over the Clinton investigation as well as Andrew McCabe's firing. They want the records connected to the FBI's 2016 investigation of Hillary Clinton, as well as the internal report that led to the ouster of Andrew McCabe. What do you make of all of that?
I think they want to make sure that that gets out, because the Clinton email investigation really was not a credible investigation. And I think that former Director Comey has really literally killed any opportunity for prosecution in that case, because he's the head of the investigating agency. He's basically exonerated her. So we do need to know what happened in that case. It really was almost a deliberate non-investigation. We need to see what happened during that. I don't think that the congressional investigation necessarily is going to draw that out. I think the Inspector General report will be explosive in that respect. I think it's going to lay that out for all of us to see. Hopefully that will get released.
Well, we will see. And Chairman Goodlatte making it very clear with those subpoenas that he wants answers. Chris Swecker, thanks for joining us this afternoon. President Trump issuing a warning to lawmakers after signing that sweeping $1.3 trillion spending bill. Plus, taking a closer look at the evolving cyber threat against the U.S., Catherine Herridge takes us through her exclusive interview with the new head of the NSA's Cyber Security Division.
Prudential asked these couples, how much money do you think you'll need in retirement? Then we found out how many years that money would last them.
How long do you think we'll keep...
Oh, stop. You're gonna leave me back here at year 9? How did this happen?
It turned out a lot of people fell short of even the average length of retirement.
We have to think about not when we expect to live to, but when we could live to.
Let's plan for income. that lasts all our years in retirement.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
What does the future of the internet hold? Is it access to high-speed bandwidth for rural America? Or immediate, reliable communications after a disaster? Is it video conferencing from the middle of the ocean or from the top of a mountain? At Airborne Wireless Network, our technology is leading the way to make that a reality. What does the future hold? Maybe it's connectivity for all.
This is a ClassAction.com alert. The shingles vaccine Zostavax is supposed to prevent shingles, but may actually cause shingles and other injuries, including vision problems, hearing loss, stroke, pneumonia, and more, even death. If you received the Zostavax vaccine and were diagnosed with shingles or suffered injuries as a result, you may be eligible to claim compensation for medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. Call the number on your screen or visit ClassAction.com. ClassAction.com. Information, protection, justice.
Managing blood sugar is a series of smart choices, and when you replace one meal or snack a day with Glucerna, made with Carb Steady to help minimize blood sugar spikes, you can really feel it. Now with 30% less carbs and sugars. Glucerna.
Pain relievers might all seem the same, but Salonpas Pain Relief Patch is the first and only FDA-approved OTC topical NSAID and the strongest labeled pain reliever available without a prescription. Salonpas for tough pain.
If you're like thousands of veterans who own a home, you may be thinking about refinancing to get money for your family. As a veteran, you're eligible to apply for a refinance loan for up to 100% of your home's value. The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consolidate your credit card debt, get cash, and lower your payments an average of $600 a month. Call New Day USA right now.
Call 1-844-383-1591.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. For the past 5 years, I've spoken with hundreds of families and visited senior care communities around the country. And I've got to tell you, today's senior living communities are better than ever. These days, there are amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And nobody understands your options like the advisors at A Place for Mom. These are local expert advisors that will partner with you to find the perfect place and determine the right level of care, whether that's just a helping hand or full-time memory care. Best of all, it's a free service. There is never any cost to you. Senior living has never been better, and there's never been an easier way to get great advice. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family. We know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
Marianne Bailey, head of the NSA's Cybersecurity Division, going in depth about evolving threats from countries like North Korea, Russia, and China in an exclusive interview with Fox News. Bailey saying the goals of hackers are clear: stealing, scrambling data, and shutting down systems. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is live in D.C. with this. Catherine?
Well, thank you, Sandra. Charged with guarding tens of thousands of national security systems across the Defense Department and the U.S. government, NSA's Marianne Bailey told Fox News in an exclusive interview about the evolving threat.
You name it. It can be anybody. Right? That is the thing about cybersecurity. It could be a nation state trying to get in to get secrets or maybe to disrupt our operations. It could be anybody. So cybersecurity is a leveler. You don't have to be a nation state to have really advanced tools and actually invoke damage.
Earlier this week, Fox News spent time at the highly secretive National Security Agency, where Bailey explained the evolving threat from North Korea, Russia, China, Iran, as well as terror groups, saying it goes beyond traditional government networks to weapon systems. And that includes the black suitcase, nicknamed the nuclear football, always seen near the president, that can authorize a nuclear attack.
There's nothing that's off the plate, and that's kind of the scary thing about cybersecurity. Our adversaries are looking at every and any opportunity to use cyber to get an advantage.
We'll have more on that tonight on Special Report, Sandra.
Catherine, former DNI James Clapper making headlines today for potentially providing some misleading testimony. What do we know about that?
Well, there are new findings from the House Russia investigation, and they found that the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, whose job included protecting classified information, quote, provided inconsistent testimony about his contact with the media, including CNN. A senior Senate Republican said today he wants allegations explored by a second special counsel, pointing out the former FBI director, Andrew McCabe, was fired for misleading federal investigators about his actions during the Clinton email investigation.
Mr. McCabe lost his job for things like this. This is yet another reason to have somebody outside the political world look at all things associated with the 2016 campaign.
Fox is reporting lawmakers questioned Clapper about the January 2017 briefing on the unverified Trump dossier to the incoming president. And it was after that Trump Tower briefing, a leak got the dossier story into the mainstream media. In a tweet this morning, the president said the House report found no evidence of collusion, and he also singled out the former director of national intelligence who oversaw the 17 agencies. Fox News has reached out to DNI Clapper and made contact with his spokesman, but has not responded to our questions. Just for some context, in the past, Clapper has declined an interview request from Fox, citing his new role as a national security analyst at CNN. Sandra.
Thank you for all your reporting on that,
You're
Catherine
welcome.
Herridge. Well, a shooting rampage at a grocery store, leaving 3 people and the terror suspect dead in France. A live report straight ahead. Plus, Congress leaves town as President Trump signs a new spending bill. Why the president says he will never sign another bill like this again.
I'm your phone. Stuck down here between your seat and your console, playing a little hide and seek. Cold. Warmer. Warmer. Up. Boiling. Jackpot. And if you've got cut rate car insurance, you could be picking up these charges yourself. So get Allstate, where agents help keep you protected from mayhem. Like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
This is where life expresses itself as an endless flow of energy. Are you ready? Atlantis, Bahamas at heart.
Book by March 31st for the best summer rates at 1-800-ATLANTIS or AtlantisBahamas.com.
What if theft were this frequent? Well, it is. An identity is stolen every 2 seconds. So protect yourself with a free dark web scan at Experian.com/darkweb.
It feels nice to have a system and a routine. It calms the chaos of the day. Because he works these crazy hours, it's very important that we sit down and have dinner together. HelloFresh was an easy way for us to get on the same page for dinner.
That's really one of our only times to connect, especially now that we have the littlest one. Simple steps, fun, delicious ingredients pre-portioned out. When you're done, you have like a masterpiece.
Go to HelloFresh.com and use code TV30 to save $30 off your first box. HelloFresh. Get cooking.
Introducing the brand new South Beach Diet. I'm Jesse James Decker, and if y'all want to know how I stay in shape, I do it with the South Beach Diet.
Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks. Order your 28-day plan today with fully prepared meals delivered to your door. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, even snacks.
I lost 38 pounds.
It's safe and healthy weight loss, easy to follow, and it works.
I lost 30 pounds on the South Beach Diet.
South Beach is a low-carb, low-sugar, high-protein program that burns fat and transforms your metabolism.
I lost 24 pounds.
Order your 28-day plan right now and receive a week of our all-new South Beach Complete Shakes free. They're packed with 20 grams of protein, no added sugar, a great source of probiotics, vitamins, and they taste great. Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in free FedEx shipping. Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks.
Trust me, the South Beach Diet works. Call or click right now.
Call 888-751-FIRM or go to southbeachdiet.com and get 1 week of shakes free.
Attention investors. Your IRA or 401k may be at risk again. The 2008 crash wiped out up to 50% of IRAs and 401ks. Can you afford to lose again? What if you could store IRA or 401k savings where you can see, touch, and hold it in your hands. With the Augusta Gold or Silver IRA, you transfer a portion of retirement savings into physical gold or silver coins you can actually see and get fast in any disaster. You get free shipping and insurance and zero management fees. Augusta Precious Metals is a gold IRA leader, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, with a 98% 5-star customer satisfaction rating at trustlink.org. Trust Augusta, where gold and silver have been the family business for over 40 years. Call 1-877-GOLD-IRA right now for your free guide to Augusta Gold IRAs. If you can't hold it, do you really own it?
Today, innovation in the Finger Lakes is helping build the new New York. Once home to the world's image center, New York State is now a leader in optics, photonics, and imaging, fueled by strong university partnerships, providing the world's best talent, and supported with workforce development to create even more opportunities. All across New York State, we're building the new New York. To grow your business with us in New York State, visit esd.ny.gov.
President Trump signing that massive spending bill despite a failure to protect dreamers or fully fund the border wall. His head of Homeland Security calling on Congress to provide the tools needed to protect the nation.
It's unfortunate that Congress chose not to listen to the men and women of DHS and those on the front lines. They told us how to build the wall, where to build the wall, and we will continue to work with them to make sure that the wall is where we need it, how we need it, as the President described, and to make sure that it serves the American people and serves the security of this nation. We also will continue to work with Congress to close the dangerous loopholes that the President has mentioned.
Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel is live on Capitol Hill. So, Mike, how are folks reacting on Capitol Hill after he threatened to veto the bill earlier today and then he signed it?
Well, Sandra, many folks here on Capitol Hill were shocked. President Trump told Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Speaker Paul Ryan about 48 hours ago he supported the $1.3 trillion spending package. 24 hours ago or so, some members of his team came out and said the president would sign it. Today, a key Democrat says nobody got everything they wanted. It's a product of bipartisan talks.
We're grown used to just complete unpredictability. So, you know, and then who knows what he'll do an hour from now. But I do know this is a good deal. It's a classic compromise. There are things I really like. There are things I wish were in the drill. I wish the dreamer deal that we put on the table for the president, that he would have accepted it.
There's a lot of finger pointing back and forth between the two parties about who blew it on a deal for the so-called dreamers. That appears headed for being a major 2018 campaign issue at this stage. As for getting it done here on Capitol Hill, it certainly was not easy. Lawmakers voting last night, late night, 65-32 in the Senate to send it to President Trump for his signature. Like the president, a lot of people who supported this bill like the idea of helping rebuild the military with this funding, but some complained about the way this mega bill was handled.
I would like for us to have some degree of discussion about this, and in the future, either finish our business at a normal time or come back the next morning. But this is a ridiculous process that we go through where people extort us until we get so tired that we're willing to do whatever it is that they wish for us to do.
It is worth noting Senator Corker is retiring, perhaps out of that frustration of coming to a deadline. Late night the night before a possible government shutdown, they pass a bill to avert crisis, but if they had failed, we would have been heading for another partial government shutdown. Sandra.
Mike Emanuel, thank you. For more on this, let's bring in Alexandra Smith, Executive Director of America Rising, and Elizabeth Gore, Policy Director and Government Relations Department Chair for Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. Thanks to both of you for being here this afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
There's no such thing as a sleepy Friday afternoon anymore around here, but what a day it was with it starting out with the president saying he was considering vetoing this bill, and then he has now signed it. The government will stay open, Alexandra.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that what the president was doing in his tweet earlier was he's reaching out to his base, letting them know that he's still in favor of the border wall, and he still is reaching out to DACA recipients to let them know that their status will be secured. But, you know, at the same time, I think that it was responsible to fund the government. As a small government conservative and as a young person, the amount of spending in this bill is, of course, worrisome to me. I think does raise valid concerns about procedure and process here.
You know, Elizabeth, I was watching your reaction when she was talking about DACA there, because the president made a point when he spoke a few moments ago to tell those DACA recipients that said this morning in a tweet said have been left out of the picture by Democrats. He told them, Republicans are with you. Listen.
I can tell you this, and I say this to DACA recipients, that the Republicans are with you. They want to get your situation taken care of. The Democrats fought us. They just fought every single inch of the way. They did not want DACA in this bill.
Elizabeth?
That's just a silly thing to say. The reason that we're in this situation with DACA is because the president ended the program last fall. He's had the different positions on DACA throughout the last several months. In one single meeting, he took 3 different positions.
Do Democrats want to get something done for DACA recipients, Elizabeth?
It's been a priority for Democrats for years to take care of this. The president said, come up with a bipartisan package and I'll sign it. The Democrats came up with that package, and the president rejected it.
Why wasn't it in this bill?
I think that the problem was that the president wouldn't go to the middle and wouldn't allow the process, the Democrats and Republicans that had a package, he wouldn't sign off on it. And that's been the problem for months.
All right, well, the president made it very clear, Alexandra, when he was speaking a few minutes ago and said, I will never sign something like this bill again. Here he is saying it. Listen.
There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. There are some things that we should have in the bill. But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. Nobody read it. It's only hours old.
And about 2,300 pages long. A warning to Congress there, Alexandra.
Yep, and he followed that up by asking for an end to the Senate filibuster. And I think it's really interesting. I don't think it's any coincidence that the word filibuster comes from the Dutch word for pirate, because in a sense, the filibuster is really forcing the Senate to come up with these enormous bills to get everyone on board, causing more generational theft of my generation in terms of the kind of spending that's going on. So I think it's something that ought to be looked at, but really it would just be a Band-Aid fix, because what we're looking at here is a systematic problem with polarization, and there are different ways you can fix that. You can fix that by adding back in responsible earmarks. You can fix that by taking away all of the campaign finance restrictions that force money into dark corners and just declaring for radical transparency. And so I think that really the heart of it is the kind of polarization that's keeping Republicans and Democrats from working together to pass smaller, more responsible solutions.
Elizabeth, I want to transition to the student march happening tomorrow, because right now I think we've got a live picture of the Parkland school kids speaking at the Newseum in Washington, D.C., a few blocks from Capitol Hill there. But they are going to be marching for their lives for action on gun control. Some in this omnibus bill, as far as gun control, is enough being done right now on this as we see those kids about to march in the Capitol tomorrow?
Well, it was a small step that was included in the omnibus bill, but the reality is that any step forward is a positive step. More has to be done, and there's a lot of bipartisan support across the whole country. Supermajorities agree that we need to have better background checks, and we need to have age limits on the purchase of certain types of guns, and we need to get rid of bump stocks. There is broad support for this, and hopefully this is going to shine a spotlight on it and get the Republicans to back away from the NRA and stand up for the American people and for the kids in our schools.
You know, the omnibus bill, Alexandra, includes the fixed National Instant Criminal Background Check system that uses a combination of incentives and punishments to prod federal agencies and the military to upload records into the background check system for purchasing guns. Do you think enough was in this bill?
Well, look, I think that in addition to strengthening the background system, this also this also permits now the CDC to engage in research concerning gun violence and the causes thereof. I think that's extremely important because we've entered this new unfortunate era of mass shootings and have been in it for some time. I think where you could really draw back a lot of this to mental illness. And I think that our tax dollars should go to study that because clearly we're just in a different time. So I think whether it's that or it's enforcing laws that are already on the books rather than adding new regulations that only regulate legal gun owners and not people who seek to procure a weapon illegally, I think is a very important step here.
All right, and we'll see those kids marching in the Capitol tomorrow as you see them there at the museum. Live picture there. Thanks to both of you, Elizabeth and Alexandra.
Thanks
Good
for having us.
conversation.
Good to be here.
ISIS is claiming responsibility after 3 people were killed in an apparent terrorist attack in France. About a dozen more were hurt in the confrontation that ended when police shot and killed the suspect. Greg Palcott joins us now from our London bureau. Greg, we watched this develop throughout the morning. What happened?
We are still getting more information about it, Sandra, about this apparent terror attack in the southwestern corner of France. Police now say the man responsible for this was a 26-year-old Moroccan-born man. He hijacked a car in the southwestern city of Carcassonne and then shot at a group of police before storming a supermarket taking hostages. During a 3-hour siege, one police officer bravely swapped himself out for one of the hostages. He left his phone on. When the police heard more gunfire, they stormed the place. All told, 4 people were killed, including the attacker, and now they're saying 16 were injured, a few of them seriously. There certainly, Sandra, are terror links to this attack. When the gunman entered the store, he shouted out, Allah Akbar, God is great. He said he had allegiance to ISIS, and authorities are saying they're treating this as a terror attack. The man even demanded the release of the lone surviving terror suspect involved in that horrendous 2015 Paris attack on the Bataclan Theater and other targets. Still, though, while ISIS is claiming responsibility for this, authorities in France are now saying it's probably more like a lone wolf attack. That will take more investigation, and it certainly doesn't mean the terror attack is any less dangerous. Back to you.
3 people killed, more than a dozen hurt. Greg Palcott, thanks for the update. Former UN Ambassador John Bolton getting ready to take the reins of a critical White House job. New reaction and the challenges he faces next. Plus, former Playboy model Karen McDougal speaking out about her alleged affair with the president.
I think the excitement of it took over for a while, and I did care about the man, I'm not going to lie. So that made it hard to end it, but I think I just started feeling so bad about myself. Like, how could I do this to A, myself, but to B, to a family?
Hey, salutes a lot! Thou hast the patchy beard of a prepubescent squire. Thy armour was forged by a feeble-fingered peasant woman. Your mum!
As long as hecklers love to heckle, you can count on Geico saving folks money.
Boring!
15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
I'm pretty handy around the house, but now that I have kids, I don't want to spend a Saturday installing a toilet or fixing an air conditioner. Thankfully, there's HomeAdvisor. A HomeAdvisor helps me find the best home pros in my area to handle any kind of project. They have verified reviews of the pros, and they do background checks, so you know you can trust them with your home. You can compare prices, book appointments, and what my wife loves most is that HomeAdvisor is completely free to use.
Go to HomeAdvisor.com or download the free app.
Guys, is this you busting out of your pants? No energy or drive? Then you need Nutrisystem for Men. New for 2018, our best program ever. Lose up to 18 pounds and 8 inches overall in your first month. Money back guarantee.
I'm Essex, and I lost 43 pounds on Nutrisystem.
I lost 120 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Put down the wings, pick up the phone, and get with the program today. Order your 28-day plan right now, and we'll rush you Nutrisystem for Men with specially designed meals. Plus, 1 week of all new NutriCur bars free. 1 week of all new NutriPro shakes packed with 20 grams of protein to help shrink your gut, free. And 1 week of all new turbo boosters to rev your metabolism, free.
The food was delicious.
Pasta, pizza.
If you're like me and you like to eat, this is what you get to do.
Call or go online in the next 2 minutes, and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping, free.
It was perfect for guys like me who don't like to cook.
Lose up to 18 pounds and 8 inches overall in your first month.
It's simple. You eat the food, you lose the weight.
Go online or call 877-915-THIN and get Nutrisystem for Men with bars, NutriPro shakes, and Turbo Boosters free.
All across the country. This is for my dad. One film is moving audiences and breaking records. Be part of the story that has everyone cheering. I Can Only Imagine. Rated PG.
If you've been turned down for a mortgage because of credit or tax return issues, Cash Call Mortgage now has credit and income-solving mortgages with no closing costs. Just call 855-890-CASH and we'll work with you to find a solution to your mortgage issues.
It would be nice to stay in a cozy boutique hotel somewhere along the coast. Not exactly sure where yet. But annoyingly, on a lot of websites, you can only see results for an exact location you search for. Well, Trivago does it differently. On Trivago, you can simply use the map. Explore the whole area, and as you move along, Trivago keeps showing you all the hotels that meet your search criteria. And that's one more way Trivago helps you find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
I'm Trace Gallagher in for Shep. More ahead on President Trump signing a massive spending bill hours after suggesting he might nix it. That capping off yet another wild week from the White House, one that includes the president naming a brand new national security advisor, his third one. We will break it all down with Fox News Sunday anchor Chris Wallace. That's coming up top of the hour on Shepard Smith Reporting.
Former Playboy model Karen McDougal sitting down for her first television interview about her alleged affair with President Trump more than a decade ago. McDougal apologizing to First Lady Melania Trump as she described the alleged affair in some detail.
This was an ongoing sexual relationship.
Absolutely.
Can you estimate how many times you actually saw him?
Again, when you're in a relationship, do you count how many times you have sex? No. However, I can tell you we saw each other a minimum 5 times a month.
Who ended the relationship?
I did.
Why?
I was just feeling so guilty. It was just digging inside me.
All this as Stormy Daniels will discuss her alleged affair with Mr. Trump before he was president on 60 Minutes this Sunday. President Trump announcing John Bolton will replace H.R. McMaster as his national security advisor, effective April 9th. This amid the administration's new tariffs on Chinese imports. Our next guest praising that decision, writing this in The Federalist. Quote, our allies, reluctant as well as committed ones, will find an honest broker who will expect them to keep agreements and work out differences honestly. As to our enemies, may God have mercy on them, because Bolton will not. And Paul Bonicelli joins us now. Paul, so make your case, as you just did, in further detail for Bolton and why this role is so good for him.
Hi, Sandra. Thanks for having me. Well, you know, I think it's important that John Bolton, or the new National Security Advisor, be someone the president's comfortable with. That's a normal thing in business and government and anywhere else. And he finally has that in John Bolton. That doesn't mean they agree on everything, certainly not the Iraq War, certainly not on tariffs. But on the things that are facing the presidency, particularly in the next 2 years, with regard to North Korea, with regard to Iran and other things, he's going to be very important for the president and working with that team. It'll be the most unified team the president's had yet for national security. But another reason John Bolton is so important for this job, I think, is that unlike a lot of national security advisors who are really behind the scenes kind of people most of the time, John Bolton has a public persona. He's an establishment figure. He's also an outsider in the way that he thinks about things. He thinks strategically across history and across the globe, and that's important now, as opposed to someone who's just sort of keeping the papers shuffled properly and all that. He's going to be a key advisor, but also corralling advice for the president.
It has been something to watch the mounting criticism of John Bolton since that appointment was announced. Democratic Senator Ed Markey using it as an opportunity to tweet about the president lining up his war cabinet. He wrote this: with the appointments of Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, real Donald Trump, that's the president, is successfully lining up his war cabinet. Bolton played a key role in politicizing the intel that misled us into the Iraq war. We cannot let this extreme war hawk blunder us into another terrible conflict, Paul.
Calumnies and criticism, that's all they can do these days. And it's really a shame that members of the Senate like Markey cannot do anything except tell us that everything is on fire all the time. As far as a war cabinet, if you want to prepare for peace, you have to prepare for war. And so there's no reason why this cabinet should not be seen as one that is ready for war if necessary. But that does not mean that any member of it is ready to go to war now. That is hyperbole, and it doesn't serve for a good debate. But that's where we are now that President Trump is in office. I think we're going to face this the entire time he's in office. The critics will talk like this.
Already in the hour since this has been announced, Bolton has taken to defending the president's recent moves with tariffs on China. He said this to defend the president's moves. Listen.
They're stealing our intellectual property. They're abusing, they're following mercantilist policies in what's supposed to be a free trade environment. And our response is we're just supposed to sit there. Is that the answer? I don't buy it. I am a free trader, but I don't think that means just getting pounded into the ground when another country does not abide by the commitments it made.
And Paul, this is after fear of a trade war sent the Dow plunging more than 700 points yesterday.
Right. Yeah, I wish people who played in the stock market had better economic sense and didn't panic all the time like school children, but that's the stock market. If you notice what John Bolton said, he focused exclusively on China. I'm a free trader too. I've been one all my life, but when countries violate the free trading rules that we've all established, WTO or any other agreement, and when they steal property, of course you have to hit them where it hurts. And so maybe we'll have a trade war. I don't expect it to disrupt trade indefinitely between China and the United States. I think that what has to happen is China has to understand that two things are going to happen. There's going to be balance and fairness. They're going to stop violating the trade rules, and the President of the United States is going to find a way for China to save face. That's why the President has played up his friendship with President Xi. That's why he doesn't like to create personal animosities with foreign rulers if he can help it.
Interesting stuff. Paul Bonicelli, thanks for being here this afternoon.
My pleasure.
Well, a day of demonstrations following the death of an unarmed black man at the hands of police. What body cam video is revealing about that confrontation.
Are you a homeowner with too much credit card debt? Look at the interest rates they charge. 14, 19, even 24%. That's out of control. If you just make the minimum payments, you're hardly putting a dent in those credit card balances. But at Mr. Cooper, we've helped our customers pay off those high interest balances. And now they pay an average of $538 less a month. That's money they can invest in their homes, their families, and their future. How? We unlocked the equity in their homes with our cash out refinance loan and consolidated their high interest debt into one lower monthly payment. Talk to us today. In minutes, an experienced loan officer can tell you if we could lower your monthly payments. Don't give credit card companies so much of your hard-earned money. Let us help you keep more money for you and your family.
Go to MrCooper.com or call 1-888-513-2030.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
What if you could lose fat in just a few hours?
I don't know what to say. I'm just in shock.
You can with Sono Bello.
It seems no matter how much you work out or diet, there are parts of your body that just don't seem to change.
I went to the gym, I worked out at home, I bought videos. No matter what I did, that bulge was still there.
With its advanced micro-laser technology,
Sono Bello gently removes that targeted fat and shapes your body for life-changing results.
as America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist, Sono Bello has performed over 100,000 personalized body and facial procedures, helping tens of thousands of people change their lives.
After 5 years trying to get rid of that roll of fat, Sono Bello did it in one day.
Call for your free no-obligation consultation today and get $250 off your Sono Bello body.
Payment plans are available.
Call 888-317-1425 or go to sonobello.com.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-650-4157.
My health has improved.
It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila, sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-650-4157, or visit SoClean.com today.
Protesters in Sacramento, California, shutting down the freeway and blocking the entrance of an NBA game after police shot and killed an unarmed man. Stephon Clark was standing in the backyard of his grandparents' house holding a cell phone. Police thought it was a gun, firing 20 rounds at him. Police say he was a suspect in armed burglaries. William Lajeunesse is live in Los Angeles with this. William?
Well, let's start with the game. It did go on, but the arena was almost entirely empty after Black Lives Matter protesters put up a human chain around the Kings Arena to block fans from getting in, all to protest the shooting of an unarmed black man believed responsible for a string of robberies. Now, protesters began at City Hall, then they blocked both lanes of the interstate, then confronted fans at the game, knocking one man unconscious.
The violence kind of muddles the message. I don't think that has a place here.
I'm a little indifferent. I mean, it's like, you know, I understand what they're protesting, but at the same time, you know, I pay money for to go into this venue, so.
There's people that respect what they're doing, but they have less respect for it when they're doing it against someone's will. Like, this is against our will.
So this all started, in a sense, on Sunday night when police got a 911 call regarding a robbery in progress, which led them to a neighborhood where a man was seen jumping over fences in the backyard. Police arrive, they give chase, they come around a corner, then shoot. The suspect falls dead. It's dark. When police confront the man, they yell, "Show us your hands." Then they fire, thinking this 22-year-old Stephon Clark had a gun that turned out to be a cell phone.
We shut it down for this black man that lost his life. It's zero tolerance, it's unacceptable, and we won't have it.
Cops killing kids. What if your son got killed last night? He's not coming home.
If I have to miss the Kings game for it, so be it. I'm not that mad. I'm more mad at the police for what they did.
So the shooting's under investigation. The officers are on leave, and the family may sue. Back to you.
All right. Thank you for that. And do you possibly need, after this day, this crazy day, could you use a Friday pick-me-up? We have one last look at our live puppy cam just ahead.
Hi, I'm William Devane. And you know, these days we take a lot for granted. Used to be just having wood for the fire and a little food for your table was all you needed to feel secure. Not anymore. Now rising debt is chopping away at the value of our dollar, like this, and that troubles me, which is why I buy gold as often as I can. I buy my gold from Roslyn Capital because I trust them. Roslyn has the fastest shipping and the best customer service around. With all the money printed by shaky governments, protecting my purchasing power against the rising threat of inflation is more critical now than ever. Protect what you've worked hard for. Buy gold from Roslyn Capital.
Call now and get your free Roslyn Capital Gold Kit, Silver Kit, and free IRA Transfer Kit. Call 800-630-8900, 800-630-8900, 800-630-8900.
They say passion is contagious, and it's got a way of making moments memorable. Start tapping into your passion with the Honda Dream Garage. Tough, reliable, and trusted Honda power equipment is designed to take the work out of yard work and help you get the job done. So make your Honda Dream Garage a reality today. Just visit an authorized Honda Power Equipment dealer. Honda Power Equipment. Very smart.
If you were seriously injured in a car accident, at work, or from a product, here's an important message. There may be more to your case than meets the eye. Some injury lawyers miss the big picture. Our product liability lawyers investigate catastrophic injury cases. We go up against the largest manufacturers and companies to recover every dollar you deserve. We've recovered millions for seriously injured clients nationwide. If you were seriously injured, no matter how, call the number on your screen, ClassAction.com.
I used to let my diabetes rule my life. Now, I'm stronger than that, more determined. I'll never let it slow me down again. Now, my day begins. I need something that tastes great, curbs my hunger, and provides longer-lasting energy without spikes. Extend bars are scientifically developed to help control blood sugar for up to 6 to 9 hours, outperforming typical nutrition bars. Take back control with Extend.
All right, I brought in high protein to help get us moving and help you feel more strength and energy in just 2 weeks. I'll take that.
Ensure high protein with 16 grams of protein and 4 grams of sugar. Ensure, always be you.
When news is breaking, you have to slow down. We have to begin with what's most important. I'm here to find out what happened, to report it without fear or favor. We work endless hours to make sure that when we deliver it to you as fact, it's a fact.
And it's National Puppy Day, so what better way to celebrate than with a bunch of puppies? Check out the live puppy cam by Canine Companions for Independence. Our executive producer will be raising one of these little guys. This is Spike, the puppy's last weekend with his brothers and sisters, because he's going to make his way here for the volunteer puppy raisers. Go to cci.org to learn more and get yourself one. Thanks for joining us.
President Trump signing an enormous spending bill hours after threatening to veto the whole thing. But he made it clear he's not happy.
I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again.
In fact, he called the bill ridiculous. You'll hear why he says he signed it and what he says he wants from Congress. Plus, the latest shakeup in the White House. President Trump bringing in his third national security advisor to replace H.R. McMaster. We'll look at what the former UN ambassador John Bolton brings to the table and how he could affect showdowns with Iran and North Korea. And terrorism again strikes France as a gunman kills 3 people before French police take him down. That's all ahead in this hour of Shepard Smith Reporting. I'm Trace Gallagher in for Shepard Smith. President Trump says he's unhappy about signing a massive spending bill into law, but says he had to do it.
While we're very disappointed in the $1.3 trillion, nobody more disappointed than me because the number is so large, it'll start coming down. We had no choice but to fund our military because we have to have by far the strongest military in the world.
The president signed the bill just hours after he threatened to veto it. That would have forced the government to shut down tonight. The president tweeted this morning, quote, I am considering a veto of the omnibus spending bill based on the fact that the 800,000 plus DACA recipients have been totally abandoned by the Democrats, not even mentioned in the bill. And the border wall, which is desperately needed for our national defense, is not fully funded. DACA, of course, refers to undocumented immigrants who came to this country as children through no fault of their own. The spending bill doesn't address them. Some Republican senators had urged President Trump to follow through on the veto threat, not over DACA, but because they opposed the massive price tag. In the end, the president gave it the okay, but said he would never sign a bill like that again. Let's get to the chief White House correspondent, John Roberts. He's live for us on the North Lawn. John.
Trace, good afternoon to you. This has been a real roller coaster. You remember a couple of days ago, the congressional leadership came to the Oval Office and was in a conference call with the president. They walked him through the omnibus bill. The president signed off on it, said that he was going to throw his support behind it. Then we had the veto threat this morning. And then ultimately this afternoon, the president held his nose and signed it. The reason for that being that this omnibus spending bill provides for a $60 billion increase in military spending to some $700 billion. That's the biggest ever. It's $716 billion next year. And it ends the defense sequestration cuts that James Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, says have really hobbled the military over the last few years. The president did threaten that veto this morning, which is when the defense secretary got on the phone to him and said, Mr. President, I really don't think that this is where we want to go with this. But we don't know. I mean, this just could have been a threat from the president. Was never really serious about it because ultimately, he said, he had to sign the bill because of the military spending. So on his way out of the diplomatic reception room this afternoon, I asked the president, well, why threaten to veto it?
Thank you.
Mr. President, why did veto the threat if you had to sign the bill?
Well, you'll figure it out in about 20 minutes after you look at it. Okay? We're going to figure it out. You're going to figure that out. We looked at a veto. I looked very seriously at the veto. I was thinking about doing the veto, but because of the incredible gains that we've been able to make for the military, that overrode any of our thinking.
Tracy pointed out in the top that the president also didn't like the bill because there was no provision to protect the so-called Dreamers, nothing for DACA. This afternoon in the diplomatic reception room, the president reached out to Dreamers saying he tried to help them, but the Democrats didn't want any part of it. Listen here.
I say this to DACA recipients, that the Republicans are with you. They want to get your situation taken care of. The Democrats fought us. They just fought every single inch of the way. They did not want DACA in this bill. I do want the Hispanic community to know and DACA recipients to know that Republicans are much more on your side than the Democrats, who are using you for their own purposes.
You pointed out, Trace, that the president said he would never ever sign a bill like this ever again. But with the budget process so horribly broken on Capitol Hill and for so many years, you could probably put down an even bet that the president will face another omnibus spending bill at some point in the future. Trace?
Yeah, let's even money. John Roberts, stand by if you will. The bill showdown came after the latest shakeup at the White House. President Trump replacing his national security advisor, General H.R. McMaster. The White House had previously denied media reports about McMaster leaving. Last week, the president said the stories were, quote, very false. But last night, the president confirmed John Bolton will take McMaster's place. Bolton was a U.S. ambassador to the UN during President George W. Bush's administration. In the past, Bolton has called for the U.S. to bomb Iran and launch a preemptive strike against North Korea. Bolton has also repeatedly defended the U.S. invasion of Iraq, something President Trump has called a terrible mistake. The national security advisor position does not require Senate confirmation, so Bolton is set to take over in a few weeks. Let's go back to John Roberts at the White House. John.
Trace, if you had money on the McMaster horse finally leaving, that horse finally paid off. This has been a long time coming. The president has been thinking about replacing McMaster for a long time. McMaster has been, at least for weeks, if not months, thinking about an exit plan from the White House. It happened right after the leak of that classified memo that was prepared for the president ahead of his call with Vladimir Putin of Russia. But I'm told that that didn't really factor too much into this. It was the fact that the president never really gelled in his relationship with McMaster. And yet every time he sits down with John Bolton, he thinks to himself, I really, really like this guy. You pointed out that John Bolton's got a hawkish view of foreign policy, certainly on Russia. He appears to be much more strident than President Trump does. But in an interview last night with Martha McCallum on The Story, Bolton said despite his past comments, he is going to keep his counsel for the president. Listen here.
I've never been shy about what my views are, but frankly, what I've said in private now is behind me, at least effective April the 9th. And the important thing is what the president says and what advice I give him.
And that's always a wise thing for an aide of the president. What's important is what the president thinks and the advice that I give him. This did seem to happen pretty quickly yesterday afternoon. You know, in terms of the timing, this was definitely a snap decision. The process to get here took a long time. John Bolton was in the Oval Office yesterday afternoon. He left the White House knowing that he had the job, but he didn't expect that the president was going to suddenly tweet about it and tell the world. So that took him by surprise a little bit. One other thing, Trace, that's bubbling up again, it's kind of on a slow rolling boil here, is the imminent departure of the VA Secretary, David Shulkin. There was some indication it might happen as soon as today. They might wait for this Inspector General's report to come out, but the consensus here is that he's gone at some point.
And John, for the record, I had zero money on the McMaster horse pulling out, but $2 on Bolton coming in. I can tell you that right now. And a lot of other people did too, John.
I had a lot of money last week right on the McMaster departure, and it did finally pay off.
Yeah, you're in better tune than I am. John Roberts live on the North Lawn. John, thank you. President Trump calling on the Senate to change its rules after he decided to sign that spending bill.
To prevent the omnibus situation from ever happening again, I'm calling on Congress to give me a line item veto for all government spending bills, and the Senate must end They must end the filibuster rule and get down to work.
But don't count on that happening. The Republican Senate leader has said he does not support ending the filibuster rule, and the Supreme Court has ruled that line item vetoes are unconstitutional. Let's get to the chief congressional correspondent, Mike Emanuel. He's live for us on Capitol Hill. Hello, Mike.
Trace, good afternoon to you. President Trump says he won't sign another one of these mega funding bills, so that suggests a showdown perhaps as soon as this fall. This particular $1.3 trillion funding package was negotiated between the big four here in Congress, McConnell, Schumer, Ryan, and Pelosi, in a bipartisan fashion. It is not clear how differently they'll be able to do future spending packages. And Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said numerous times he does not want to change the rules of the Senate to get rid of the filibuster. It's a rare bit of leverage the minority party has, which one day will be the Republicans once again. A veteran Republican senator talked about how difficult it is getting things done.
You've got a political situation where the House doesn't have a lot of flexibility because of divisions within the conference, and the Senate's got a 51-49 majority. So because of that, I mean, you don't have any wiggle room. And the Democrats leverage some power out of that narrow margin that we have. And why they didn't use that power to get DACA out, I'll never understand.
It is worth noting some of the president's allies here on Capitol Hill are working on budget reform. It will be interesting to see if those talks can produce results and perhaps a neater process going forward. Trace.
Yeah, and this time yesterday, Mike, the Republican leadership was pretty much on board saying the president would sign this. What did the Democrats say about the president's veto threat?
Well, they're saying, this was the product of bipartisan talks. When both parties sit down at the table and negotiate together, you get some of what you want. You have to give to get what you want, essentially. And then a Maryland Democrat senator took this swipe at the president.
You've got a president who claims he's the great negotiator, the art of the deal. Where was he when the deal was being made? Wakes up the next day and says he wants something different. He is actually one of the worst negotiators I've ever seen.
With the $1.3 trillion government funding package signed, the threat of a government shutdown is gone until at least the end of September. Expect much of the rest of this year here on Capitol Hill to be about those midterm elections in November. Trace.
No doubt. The chief congressional correspondent, Mike Emanuel, he's live for us at Capitol Hill. Mike, thank you. Ahead, we'll discuss all of this with Fox News Sunday anchor Chris Wallace, and that is coming up next.
I think it's time to retire my dad's suit.
Not to worry, our expert stylist will bring you up to date.
There he is. Here I am.
Now at Men's Warehouse, take 60% off select suits, plus all wrinkle-free dress shirts are 3 for $99. You're gonna like the way you look in a great fitting suit.
Gas, bloating, constipation, and diarrhea can start in the colon and may be signs of an imbalance of good bacteria. Only Philips Colon Health has this unique combination of probiotics. It helps replenish good bacteria. Get 4-in-1 symptom defense.
My time is thin, but so is my lawn.
It's been worn down to ugly, thin grass. Now there's new Scott's Thicker Lawn, the revolutionary 3-in-1 solution for weak lawns. With a soil improver to strengthen roots, seed to fill in gaps, and fertilizer to feed. The result? Up to a 50% thicker lawn after just one application.
Now yard time is our time.
This is a Scott's Yard.
Morning on the beach was so peaceful, until it wasn't. Don't let type 2 diabetes get between you and your heart, because your risk of heart attack or stroke is up to 4 times greater. But there are steps you can take to lower your cardiovascular risk. Talk to your healthcare provider today about diabetic heart disease. And find out more at heartoftype2.com. Your heart and type 2 diabetes. Make the connection.
Home ownership means something different to veterans. It means freedom. It's the reason you chose to serve our country. So you'd have a safe place to come home to, and eventually, a home to call your own. A place to gather your troops under one roof. Your roof. A place to mark time and relax with your commanding officer. A place to call home. New Day USA can help make that happen for veterans like you. The New Day Zero Down VA Home Loan lets you buy a home with no down payment. At New Day, your service is your down payment. The New Day Zero Down VA Home Loan is a real chance to own your own home. That's freedom. That's New Day USA.
Since everything's included at Beaches Negril in Jamaica, you can do all the things you love with the ones you love. Because the best thing you can give your family on vacation is you.
That's right, my generation. Yeah, we're all about a good time. Yeah, we're all about a good life. You won't believe until you see. This is gonna be a fun ride. Yeah, we're all about
Beaches All-Inclusive Resorts, where you can feel like family again. Call 1-800-BEACHES and save up to 65%.
This week at the White House, President Trump signed a massive spending bill that he called ridiculous, one that the president had even suggested he might veto. And as far as the revolving door goes, President Trump's top attorney in the Russia investigation resigned, and President Trump also named his third national security advisor, third in just over a year in office. Keep in mind, that's all in just the past 2 days. Let's bring in Chris Wallace. He's the anchor of Fox News Sunday. I guess first the budget bill. Chris, good to see you, first of all, sir. And secondly, what did you make of the veto threat? Because yesterday at this time, it seemed like the Republican leadership was all on the same page that he was going to sign this thing. This morning, we get the tweet that he might threaten to veto this thing. And then it seemed like at the press conference, he was just like, nah, we were going to sign it the whole time.
You know, I don't know what to make of it, because it wasn't just Republican leaders, Trace, who were talking about the White House was on board. It was the president's own budget director in the White House briefing room yesterday who said the president was going to sign this bill. And he acted today as if this was all a surprise. Congress and the White House is always in negotiations on this. They came up with this idea, the spending plan, which everybody talked about, busting the budget $1.3 trillion 6 weeks ago. All they've done over the last 6 weeks is put some more details into the spending. But this was already agreed to then. And I have to say also, for the president suddenly to talk about DACA and the wall, Democrats came to the White House and offered the president a deal in return for protecting 1.8 million dreamers and people eligible for that. They were going to give them the $25 billion of spending for the wall weeks ago. The president turned it down, said he wanted the end to the visa lottery, a sharp restriction on chain migration. Not to say it's right or wrong, but again, you sort of wonder, where has the president been while he and his team have been negotiating for months on all these issues?
Yeah, it's a very good point. You know, I was watching, kind of switching over now to H.R. McMaster and John Bolton. I was watching your exceptional coverage yesterday, Chris, when this announcement came down, you and Jennifer Griffin and Catherine Herridge. And the common theme in that seemed to be that, look, you know, we've got John Bolton, who's against the Iran deal. He does not think we should deal with North Korea. You know, he thinks the U.S. Embassy in Israel was a great idea. But he also made it very clear that the president is the one who got elected and the president makes the decisions.
Yeah, I mean, having said that, H.R. McMaster wasn't trying to overrule the president. He's a general. He's part of the military command. He understood who got elected. I think that the switch from McMaster was more about personality than it was about policy. What I'm told is that the president likes a freewheeling discussion. McMaster would get in there in sessions with the president, and he briefed him almost every day, and it would be very orderly. Point one, point two, and long details as to why point one should be this way. And the president didn't like it, and in fact, even sometimes ridiculed him and said, "Why are you so serious?" Now, having said that, John Bolton is pretty serious too and has very strong opinions when it comes to foreign policy, and I'm curious to see how the two of them are going to get along. Frankly, also curious to see the dynamics of the new foreign policy team, because you're going to have Pompeo in for Tillerson, you're going to have Bolton in for McMaster, and then and I can't wait to see how McMaster gets along with James Mattis, the retired general and defense secretary, because they both have pretty strong opinions and somewhat different. Bolton definitely more of a hawk than Mattis is.
Yeah, and speaking on that, I want to give you John Bolton's opinion back in August, because you've interviewed him a million times, and so have I. He's the same on camera as he is off, and he said this, quoting, "North Korea test launched on Friday its first ballistic missile potentially capable of hitting America's east coast." He goes on to say that if thereby proved the failure of 25 years of U.S. non-proliferation policy. A single-minded rogue state can pocket diplomatic concessions and withstand sustained economic sanctions to build the deliverable nuclear weapons. It is past time for Washington to bury this ineffective carrots and sticks approach. What do you think of this upcoming summit between Kim Jong-un and Trump? Does it happen?
It certainly indicates that at least the advice, obviously the president will decide what he wants to do, that the advice from Bolton is going to be pretty tough. He has said he thinks that the president ought to go in there, I'm talking about before his appointment yesterday, and basically say to Kim, look, are you going to denuclearize or not? And if Kim says, hems in any way, say, well, we're finished talking. John Bolton had an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal just a week or so ago in which he laid out the legal case for a preemptive strike on North Korea. Now, if you're going in there to try to say, look, if you don't basically surrender now, it's going to get very ugly very quickly, then Bolton may help. But if the president really is willing and interested in negotiating and a somewhat prolonged diplomatic process, I'm not sure John Bolton is along for that ride.
Yeah. Chris Wallace, always good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Trace.
Well, this weekend on Fox News Sunday, Chris talks with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, also Cameron Kasky, a student who survived last month's school shooting in Parkland, Florida. He is helping to organize tomorrow's March for Our Lives rally in Washington, D.C. And Delaney Tarr, another survivor turned activist who warned lawmakers, "We are coming after you." Well, Islamic State terrorists now claiming credit for the attack at a French supermarket that left 3 people dead. Ahead, what intelligence insiders are saying, plus the story of the hero French officer who swapped his own safety for a hostage.
Liberty Mutual stood with me when this guy got a flat tire in the middle of the night, so he got home safe.
Yeah, my dad says their insurance doesn't have that.
What? You can leave worry behind when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
At Joseph A. Bank, save up to 60% off almost everything. All 1905 and executive sport coats, $149. All dress shirts, 2 for $89. Plus, get all traveler suits, $249. And find exactly what you're looking for. The up to 60% off sale, only at Joseph A. Bank.
Hello. Let's go for a ride on a Peloton. Let's go grab a couple thousand friends and chase each other up a hill. Let's go make a personal best, then beat it with your personal better than best. Let's go bring the world's best instructors right to you. Better yet, let's go bring the entire New York studio live. Let's go anytime, anywhere, with anyone who's willing. And let's go do it all right here. Ready to go? Peloton.
Having moderate to severe plaque psoriasis is not always easy. It's a long-distance run, and you have the determination to keep going. Humira has a proven track record of being prescribed for over 10 years. It's the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists. More than 250,000 patients have chosen Humira to fight their psoriasis, and they're not backing down. For most patients, clearer skin is the proof.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Join over 250,000 people who have chosen Humira. Ask your dermatologist about Humira and go.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-650-4157.
My health has improved.
It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila, sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-650-4157, or visit SoClean.com today.
A New York City firefighter died overnight battling a fire on a movie set. Fire officials say Michael Davidson somehow became separated from his crew and got injured. He died later at the hospital. Davidson had worked for the New York City Fire Department for 15 years. The fire happened on the set of the movie Motherless Brooklyn in Harlem. It stars Ed Norton and Bruce Willis. The New York Post reports Norton saw smoke and told a cop. The movie producers expressed their condolences and called Davidson and the other firefighters real-life superheroes. Meantime, Islamic State terrorists claim one of their soldiers carried out a deadly attack on a supermarket in southern France today. Happened about an hour south and east of Toulouse. French police say the attack lasted for hours. It started when a gunman fired at some police officers, wounding one of them. He then took hostages inside a supermarket and murdered 3 people before officers raided the building and killed him. More than a dozen people are hurt, among them one very brave police officer. The French Interior Minister says that officer offered himself as a hostage to get a civilian set free. And when the suspect accepted, the officer left his cell phone on so cops could listen to what was happening inside. Jillian Turner is live for us in Washington with more on this. Jillian.
So, Trace, we've got some new insight into what ISIS and its sympathizers were doing as the attack was unfolding, thanks to sources who monitor ISIS-linked operatives on a platform called Telegram. As soon as the attack was reported this morning, sources tell Fox News they saw an explosion of postings about the attack from ISIS affiliates on certain Telegram channels. This is what intelligence officials refer to as terrorist chatter. These operatives soon established a new Telegram channel dedicated solely to discussion about the ongoing attack in real time. They began trying to energize ISIS affiliates and encourage followers to immediately get out there and execute follow-on attacks. Finally, just before 11 a.m. EST, ISIS issued an actual claim of responsibility via Amaq, their so-called news agency, claiming the French attack was carried out by, quote, a soldier of the Islamic State. So it's clear, Trace, that ISIS wants to be in control of this latest attack and that it also wants to create the impression the perpetrator was following directives from ISIS. While the claim has yet to be confirmed, if it is, this attack will become the first major incident on President Emmanuel Macron's watch since he assumed office last May. Trace?
Yeah, and Jillian, this is just the latest in a string of recent attacks.
That's right. This attack comes in a moment when France remains on a high alert nationwide as the result of a cluster of Islamist attacks beginning in 2015. At the beginning of that year, there was a major attack on the Paris headquarters of satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. 12 people were killed. Later that year, in November 2015, ISIS rampaged the city of Paris again with a coordinated slew of attacks at restaurants, bars, and the Bataclan Theater. 130 people perished in that attack. Then in July 2016, ISIS claimed responsibility for an attack in which one of their sympathizers drove a truck through a Bastille Day celebration. That attack killed 84 people. As a result of all of this, France's government had imposed a state of emergency that was only lifted last October, just 5 months ago. The military personnel have remained stationed at major transportation sites and tourist hubs ever since then. So we were prepared, they were prepared, but apparently not prepared well enough for this one. Trace?
Right. Jillian Turner live for us in D.C. Jillian, thank you. Coming up, more on President Trump's pick for National Security Advisor, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor John Bolton. I'll speak with a reporter about Bolton's...
Only to find unpredictability around every corner. That's why the wise investor turns to one of the most secure investments on Wall Street, or any street. Assured Guaranty, the proven leader in municipal bond insurance.
Your brain changes as you get older, but Prevagen helps your brain with an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, the name to remember.
What the hell happened last night?
It was an accident.
One of America's greatest cover-ups is now a major motion picture.
Dead body holds a lot of secrets. Those can be the difference between guilt and innocence.
Chappaquiddick is exactly what you want it to be.
We tell the truth, or at least our version of it.
Tense, scrupulous, suspenseful, relentless, and edge-of-your-seat absorbing.
This family perseveres. We have a true compass, and we follow it.
Chappaquiddick, rated PG-13, in theaters April 6th.
Hands go here. Feet go here. You know what goes here. And your approval rating goes here. Test drive the Z-Track Z540R at your John Deere dealer and learn why it's not how fast you mow. It's how well you mow fast. Nothing runs like a Deere. Save $250 when you test drive and buy a John Deere residential Z540R Z-Track mower.
With constant cybersecurity threats, Americans need to take responsibility and protect themselves from identity theft.
That's why Experian monitors the dark web globally and alerts you to suspicious activity, so you can act before a criminal can. Go to Experian.com/protect now to see if your personal information is on the dark web with a free one-time dark web scan.
Every American needs protection from the dark web. Protect yourself and your family now.
I'm Leah Gabriel with the Fox Report now and more headlines from the Fox News deck. A car bomb exploding outside a sports stadium in southern Afghanistan, killing at least 12 people and hurting dozens more. That's according to a public health official there. It happened as people were leaving celebrations for the Afghan New Year. A giant T-Rex at a dinosaur theme park in Colorado bursting into flames happened in Cannon City, about 90 miles south of Denver. The owner of the park says that he thinks there was an electrical malfunction. The T-Rex is 24 feet tall and appeared to be breathing fire at some points. The owner says he hopes to replace that by the summer. And a fist fight erupting between two lawmakers during a government meeting happened in the country of Georgia, not the state, on Monday. But we just got that video. The city assembly members were apparently arguing about the formation of a new political faction. When things got heated, they had minor injuries. The news continues with Trace Gallagher right after this.
Are you a homeowner with too much credit card debt? Look at the interest rates they charge. 14, 19, even 24%. That's out of control. If you just make the minimum payments, you're hardly putting a dent in those credit card balances. But at Mr. Cooper, we've helped our customers pay off those high interest balances. And now they pay an average of $538 less a month. That's money they can invest in their homes, their families, and their future. How? We unlocked the equity in their homes with our cash-out refinance loan and consolidated their high-interest debt into one lower monthly payment. Talk to us today. In minutes, an experienced loan officer can tell you if we could lower your monthly payments. Don't give credit card companies so much of your hard-earned money. Let us help you keep more money for you and your family.
Go to MrCooper.com or call 1-888-513-2030.
I'm Chris, and I lost 120 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Listen up, guys. Want to shed a few pounds? Got a beer belly? Can't fit into your pants? Then you need Nutrisystem for Men. New for 2018, our best program ever. Lose up to 18 pounds and 8 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guarantee.
I'm Essex, and I lost 43 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Real guys, real results.
I'm Michael, and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Put down the pie. Pick up the phone and get with the program today. Get 1 week of new NutriCurve bars free and 1 week of new NutriPro shakes free. Plus 1 week of all new turbo boosters to rev your metabolism free.
The food was delicious. This is perfect for men, especially guys who don't want to cook.
So get off the couch. Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping. Free. Lose up to 18 pounds and 8 inches overall in your first month.
It's not that hard. You eat the food, you lose the weight.
Go online or call 888-533-THIN and get Nutrisystem for Men with bars, NutriPro shakes, and turbo boosters free.
President Trump's pick for National Security Advisor, quote, won't take anybody's crap. And the president feels he'll finally get the foreign policy approach he wants. That, according to the reporting of my next guest. Jonathan Swan is a national political reporter for Axios. He's got a piece out today on what he calls the clashes to come now that John Bolton is joining the Trump administration. Jonathan, great to see you. I was kind of reading this, and you say at some point there that you believe that allies of H.R. McMaster believe that General Mattis and outgoing Secretary of State Rex Tillerson treated McMaster like crap. And then you write, quoting here, sources who know Bolton expect he will stare down Mattis, tell him when he's wrong, and will be a Henry Kissinger-type presence in the room. Now that Tillerson is gone, he could fundamentally tip the balance of power on Trump's national security team, senior officials expect. How does that play in the West Wing, Jonathan?
Firstly, if you speak to anybody who has a close relationship with H.R. McMaster, they will tell you exactly the same thing as I reported there. There was basically a triumvirate with Rex Tillerson, James Mattis, and to some extent John Kelly. But really, it was Rex Tillerson and James Mattis who people who've watched them in action say they really viewed themselves as protecting the world, almost a bulwark against Donald Trump and Donald Trump's instincts. That was very much the way that they conceived of what they were doing. Restraining Trump's instincts. They opposed him on the Iran deal. He wanted to tear it up. They thought that he should, give it more of a chance. They opposed his decision to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem because they thought it would inflame the Arab region. And McMaster was sort of isolated there. They pushed him around. He was a 3-star to their 4-star. And John Bolton is a very different character. He is going to come in there, sources close to him tell me, and he will stare down Mattis, and he will be very forthright in his opinions. Also, particularly on the issues of Iran and North Korea, he has told the president, I will reflect your positions on these issues. There's no ambiguity about where John Bolton stands on these two issues.
So you talk about how the triumvirate was, and now you've got John Bolton in there and Mike Pompeo.
Right.
And, Bolton has made it very clear, look, here's the deal. He's in favor of the embassy in Jerusalem. He's in favor of pulling this Iran deal. He's in favor of not talking. So the question becomes, this is an entirely different game. Does that put the North Korea talks on shaky ground in your assessment?
I believe so, because they're already, let's be realistic. And again, anyone internally in the White House would tell you this. The North Korea talks are already on shaky grounds. Yes, the president's agreed to them, but we haven't really got a solid message back from the North Koreans. It's all being mediated through the South Koreans. They have their own agenda. There's a lot of discussion about where could we hold such a meeting? What do the North Koreans have to actually do for it to happen? And Bolton has been very, very clear about this. He believes the only language that Kim Jong-un would understand is the credible threat of military force. He does not have the patience for the diplomatic track that James Mattis and Rex Tillerson had.
Yeah, and he is a hawk, Jonathan. I'll give you that. And I've interviewed him a dozen times, and he's the same. I was telling Chris Wallace, the same on camera as he is off camera. He's a brilliant guy. Whether you disagree with him or not, he's a brilliant guy, but he's also very pragmatic. So this is not a guy who's going to say, okay, Mr. Trump, we need to go in there and do a preemptive strike against North Korea first day in office. Correct?
I mean, nowhere have I written anything like that, and I think that there is some hyperbole about John Bolton's views. But look, he's on the records advocating the argument for a preemptive strike against North Korea. He believes that, yes, people can call him a warmonger, people can use all these pejoratives to describe him, but the way he sees it is it's unacceptable to let North Korea get a nuclear weapon, and he believes in using American military force to stop them getting that. And he believes that the other side, the people who are saying, no, it's unthinkable, just are afraid to confront that basic question of whether you would allow North Korea to get weapons. So you're right, no one's saying day one, but I think, look, he's been very clear about what he believes on the record.
Sure. Yeah, and it's true. It's a very good piece, very fascinating. Jonathan Swan, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the new head of the National Security Agency's Cybersecurity Division giving her first national TV interview to Fox News. Marianne Bailey spoke about threats from hackers in North Korea, China, and Russia. She talked to our chief intelligence correspondent, Catherine Herridge, who is now live for us in Washington. Catherine.
Well, Trace, her job is protecting thousands of U.S. government systems and networks, including the Defense Department, which, according to the NSA's Marianne Bailey, are under attack hundreds of thousands of times every day. And she spoke exclusively with Fox about how lone hackers can do just as much damage as nations like Iran, China, and Russia.
It could be a nation state trying to get in to get secrets or maybe to disrupt our operations. It could be anybody. So cybersecurity is a leveler. You don't have to be a nation state to have really advanced tools and actually invoke damage.
Earlier this week, Fox News spent time at the highly secretive National Security Agency, where Bailey explained the evolving threat from these nations, as well as terror groups like ISIS, and that it goes beyond hacking traditional government computer networks to weapon systems that include the black suitcase, nicknamed the nuclear football, always seen near the president, that authorizes a nuclear attack. So you're trying to ensure the cybersecurity of the nuclear football?
Absolutely. There's nothing that's off the plate, and that's kind of the scary thing about cybersecurity. Our adversaries are looking at every and any opportunity to use cyber to get an advantage.
And that also goes to the security of things like satellites that they have no contact with once they launch for years at a time, Trace.
And Catherine, Fox News also got access to the cybersecurity SWAT teams as well?
Well, that's right. When there's a major cybersecurity event targeting U.S. government or military networks, the NSA either calls in or dispatches these teams of specialists to limit the damage and identify the hackers. They work out of a command center at NSA headquarters, and they rarely speak publicly. They're known as cyber defenders or part of the cyber red team or SWAT team. In this case, we met a 28-year-old who studied computer programming and combined his love of competitive football for the job.
So it's my job to actually catch hackers when they hack our systems. It's my job to not only identify hackers that are in our system, but more importantly, how they got in. So if we don't identify how they got in, they can get in again.
What we heard on a visit to the NSA really kind of amplified the recent testimony of the incoming nominee for the head of the NSA, General Nakasone, which is that technology has really created so much opportunity, but it's also created tremendous risk, especially for these U.S. government systems. Some of them are, real legacy systems, so they're pretty antiquated, Trace.
Yeah, great stuff. Catherine?
You're
Catherine
welcome.
Herridge live for us in D.C. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, lawmakers asking Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg to testify on Capitol Hill after accusations that a political consulting firm used data from 50 million users to try and sway the 2016 election. In a statement, leaders of the Senate Commerce Committee said his testimony is needed to figure out how Facebook plans to gain users' trust back and safeguard their information in the future. Some folks say they're deleting their Facebook accounts following the scandal, but even if you delete your profile, Facebook still has all of your information. Laura Engel is live with that part of the story in New York. Laura.
Hey, Trace. Well, it's a little easier said than done. It takes a couple of steps, but people say it's not necessarily so hard to get all the way off of Facebook. But here's the deal. You've got those couple of steps, and it could take a couple of months to get off Facebook entirely. Plus, if you have information through your friends and family, it can still be on there on Facebook. So tech experts say the first step is to download before you delete so you can keep your user history, photos, and chats. However, according to Facebook's Help Center page, your data, which was posted by friends and family members, will remain on Facebook as long as those people have accounts. One former Facebook user told us today the privacy issue has really bothered him.
I found out that you really don't have any control over who Facebook shares your information with. The only control I have is to delete my account, and hopefully that'll ensure that my data is not shared with people that I don't want it to be shared with.
And as we've been hearing, Facebook CEO and founder Mark Zuckerberg has said he's been working to find out, to get to the exact bottom line of how this happened, and so that it won't happen again, Trace.
And Laura, the founder of SpaceX and Tesla, deleting the company's accounts as well.
Yes, this is happening today, and actually it's been quite a back and forth on Twitter. The CEO and founder Elon Musk has been having this back and forth. We've been watching it today unfold. It started when Musk replied to a tweet earlier this week from Brian Acton, the co-founder of WhatsApp, who sold the social media messaging site to Facebook in 2014. Acton tweeting this: "It is time, hashtag delete Facebook. Musk replied to the tweet asking, "What's Facebook?" Then later promised to delete his company's account after admitting he didn't realize SpaceX had a Facebook page. Now, as far as how many people who have hit that delete button so far, we won't know until Facebook posts its quarterly report in late April, early May, when they reveal that information. In the meantime, some people who do business on Facebook are doing a slow roll to end their relationship.
I'm going to delete Facebook at the end of this week, but I wanted to give everybody time to see my posts, to see that I was leaving, and one of the main things that I keep posting on every single one of them is make sure you have my number so that you can get in contact with me.
And there are advertisers pulling out as well, Mozilla and a German bank, and Trace even Cher has deleted her Facebook account. Back to you.
No, say it isn't so.
It's true.
Laura Ingle live for us in New York. Great to see you, Laura. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Well, protests erupting in California's capital after cops shot and killed an unarmed black man. What police are saying about it now, plus we have the body camera footage from the night it happened coming up and going down. The Dow again. Today it's down 341 so far. We're being told it's on the China tariff fears, but China only retaliated saying, look, we're going to impose $3 billion of tariffs on the U.S. versus your $25 billion on us. Seems like a fair trade. We will dig into why the Dow is going down again, along with your 401ks, as Fox News continues.
Prudential asked these couples, how much money do you think you'll need in retirement? Then we found out how many years that money would last them.
How long do you think we'll keep?
Oh,
you're gonna leave me back here at year 9? How did this happen?
It turned out a lot of people fell short of even the average length of retirement.
We have to think about not when we expect to live to, but when we could live to.
Let's plan for income that lasts all our years in retirement.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
Your modern software factory runs millions of lines of code through trillions of connections. You think I'm dramatizing? Think again. Application security, each line a potential breach. That's why checking code before you deploy isn't enough. You have to check it continuously.
I do?
Yep, you do. When your app's in here, and when it's out here. I know, you can't be in a trillion places at once, but we can.
When you look at the Mercedes-Benz GLC, with its high-tech cameras and radar, contemporary cockpit, 360-degree network of driver assist technologies, and sporty performance, what's most impressive about the GLC? All depends on your point of view. Lease the GLC 300 for just $449 a month at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Steinmart's famous 12-hour sale is here with huge store-wide savings. Get up to 50% off hundreds of spring sale items like famous brand dresses, shoes, bedding, and much more. Plus, save up to 75% off all clearance items this Friday and Saturday at Steinmart.
Hi, I'm Johnny Bench. After a Hall of Fame career, it's no wonder why I use Blue Emu Arthritis Cream. Blue Emu's non-greasy, deep-penetrating formula gets down deep into those joints for big-time pain relief. Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink.
Home ownership means something different to veterans. It means freedom. It's the reason you chose to serve our country. So you'd have a safe place to come home to, and eventually, a home to call your own. A place to gather your troops under one roof. Your roof. A place to mark time and relax with your commanding officer. A place to call home. New Day USA can help make that happen for veterans like you. The New Day Zero Down VA Home Loan lets you buy a home with no down payment. At New Day, your service is your down payment. The New Day Zero Down VA Home Loan is a real chance to own your own home. That's freedom. That's New Day USA. Tired, aching legs, painful feet? Relieve your aching legs and feet today with Revitive Medics Circulation Booster. A drug-free and clinically tested medical device cleared by the FDA, Revitive stimulates your leg muscles to actively improve circulation, relieve aches and pains, and strengthen leg muscles.
easy to use. Just one session a day could make all the difference. Do more without aches and pains. For exclusive offers, go to tryrevitive.com or Amazon.
Hundreds of people protesting in Sacramento after police shot and killed an unarmed black man over the weekend. Cops say they thought the man had a gun, but he was holding only a cell phone. Protesters chanting, "Say his name, Stephon Clark," as they blocked the entrance to a Sacramento Kings basketball game. They also blocked part of a freeway. William Lajeunesse is here with more on this. What happened at the Kings game?
Well, so the arena is actually where the protest ended.
Right.
Black Lives Matter. They started at City Hall. Then they went to Interstate 5, where the protesters basically stopped traffic in both lanes. Then they went to the arena, where the Kings were playing Atlanta. Protesters there locked arms in a human chain. They would not let people inside. In fact, one man was knocked unconscious. After that, so basically the fans were saying, hey, we paid tickets to get in this game. Right. We want to go. Not going to happen. So about 17,000 tickets were sold. Only 2,000 people were allowed in the game. Police were in riot gear, but they made no arrests because they said they don't want to make the situation any worse.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. As you talk about this, we were kind of watching this last night as it happened live, and they surrounded this thing, right? They surrounded the arena, and nobody could get in, and cops weren't letting them in. So the shooting Sunday night, I mean, you know, the video was cool, the scope video was cool, but the body cam video was a little hard to decipher.
Well, let's go back to how it all started with this 911 call. So there's a homeowner. He hears breaking glass. He goes outside. He sees his truck. He sees a guy next to his truck, and the broken glass, and the man runs. At that point, he calls PD. The helicopter picks up the suspect. He's running through backyards. Officers arrive. They give chase. They get him into a corner. And that, of course, is where you see this body cam video. And you hear the police say, "Show me your hands, gun, gun." Both fire. It takes about 6 seconds. Turns out that 22-year-old Stephon Clark had only that cell phone in his hands, and it was the house where he lived.
Yeah. And that's what led to the march and everything else. And we were kind of watching that and thinking, you know, I didn't count the shots, but there were a lot of them. And you think 20 shots in that amount of time. And the body cam video clearly shows these guys thought he had a weapon. Even when he was down, they thought he had a weapon. He only had a cell phone.
So, of course, there'll be an investigation, use of force. Did the officers firmly believe that they were in danger for their lives? The family has hired a lawyer who has also handled the Trayvon Martin case, the Michael Brown case, civil suit likely against the city. Be a tough call, but right now, Sacramento's pretty upset.
Yeah, and there are going to be more protests this weekend, I'm sure.
Al Sharpton expected next week. Game on Sunday. A lot of attention.
A lot of attention. Thank you. Stocks taking a dive after President Trump announced plans to slap steep taxes on Chinese goods. Here's a look at the Dow minutes before the closing bell, down 371. Coming up, Fox Business Network's Deirdre Bolton will explain how this impacts your 401k. Little hint, it's not good news. Next.
I think it's time to retire my dad's suit.
Not to worry, our expert stylist will bring you up to date.
There he is. Here I am.
Now at Men's Warehouse, take 60% off select suits, plus all wrinkle-free dress shirts are $3 for $99.
You're gonna like the way you look in a great fitting suit.
Hey, we didn't have a homeowner's claim last year, so Allstate's giving us money back on our bill.
Seems fair. Didn't use it.
We should got money back on gym memberships.
Get money back.
Hilarious.
With claim-free rewards. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
Last year, Belfour did 114,000 different jobs around the world. We've been to floods, fires, tornado sites, earthquakes, where people have lost everything. Yes, your homes can be rebuilt, and yes, your businesses will be rebuilt, but most importantly, your lives will be rebuilt. There's nothing that we cannot fix, and we believe that.
It's our pictures.
To me, that's Belfour. At Belfour, we're restoring more than property.
Just because you're cooking at home doesn't mean you can't travel the globe. Playdate is the meal kit for people who love food. So you can explore the world without ever leaving your kitchen.
Our diverse menus include 20 globally inspired chef-designed recipes and 2 delicious desserts every week. And our flexible plans fit every table and schedule. Get everything you need to make amazing dinners in one completely customized box. From pre-portioned, high-quality ingredients to easy-to-follow recipe cards, so you can create home-cooked meals that will impress your entire family. Let Plated be your passport to unforgettable dinners every week.
Get 25% off your first 4 weeks at plated.com/25x4.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-650-4157.
My health has improved. It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila! Sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-650-4157, or visit SoClean.com today.
When someone watches the news, they want someone they can trust. Our job is to cut through the talking points.
We're going to ask the tough questions because there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there that needs to be challenged.
What I'm doing is making sure that whatever is developed through the day, people are fully informed from coast to coast.
We're 24/7 news, but we're really down to the minute.
We're going to be fearless. We're going to be fair.
Whether it's 4 a.m. or midnight, we're there.
Take a live look at the Dow. Thank goodness it's Friday. The Dow is down 435. Add that to the 700 plus points yesterday it dropped after President Trump announced tariffs on about $50 billion worth of Chinese imports. China responding with its own tariff plan. Let's bring in Deirdre Bolton from the Fox Business Network. Deirdre, I feel like you and I are doom and gloom in these seats.
Yeah, we should take this on the road, Trace. But in the meantime, this is a clear sell-off. So the Dow levels that you just mentioned are below the February 8th lows. And if you recall from that time, that was when the Dow was in correction territory. So essentially 10% off of its recent highs. This could trigger even more selling next week. I hate to say it, but it's true. We are now down for the third straight day in a row. Take a look at the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ as well. Both of these are at 2-year lows as well. So the tariffs, of course, causing a lot of this sentiment hiccup. No other way to say it. The idea, of course, that President Trump even said yesterday there could be more to come. So yes, we put between $50 and $60 billion worth of tariffs out there. The Chinese responded with $3 billion. So obviously much smaller in number, but affecting American pork, American wine, American fruit. So if Chinese people want to buy all those goods from us in their country, they have to pay more for them. And the translation being they're just going to buy less of them. In addition, of course, we had the Fed earlier this week raising interest rates by 1/4 point, widely telegraphed, but the Fed saying more to come and some turmoil and a huge spending bill in D.C. Trace, all the reasons for the fall. Back to you.
Bear of good news, Deirdre Bolton. Good of you. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Liberty Mutual stood with me when I was too busy with the kids to get a repair estimate. I just snapped a photo and got an estimate in 24 hours.
My insurance company definitely doesn't have that.
You can leave worry behind when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Weeds, nature's boomerang. At Roundup, we know they keep coming back. Draw the line. One spray of Roundup Max Control 365 kills to the root and keeps weeds away for up to 1 year. Roundup, trusted for over 40 years.
I'm Jacqueline.
Hi, I'm Heather.
My name is Julene. I'm on Match because I'm ready to find my partner.
Looking for a real relationship?
I'm looking for a serious relationship. With someone who can grow with me.
Check out Match right now for free.
If you've been turned down for a mortgage because of credit or tax return issues, Cash Call Mortgage now has credit and income-solving mortgages with no closing costs. Just call 855-890-CASH and we'll work with you to find a solution to your mortgage issues.
It's the buy one, get one free paint sale at Ace.
Our biggest paint sale of the year.
Buy a gallon of our top paint brands and get one free.
And you know what else is free? Our help.
With the Ace Extra Mile Promise, if you don't get everything you need in one trip, we'll bring it to you. And the delivery is free.
Don't miss the buy one, get one free paint sale. Get great savings on our top paint brands, Valspar, Clark & Kensington, and Royal. Now through Monday, only at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Far from ordinary, and now far closer than you ever imagined. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
Get a free mesothelioma book from mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. That's why we offer this free book.
Call toll-free at 1-800-745-BOOK.
Attention investors. Your IRA or 401k may be at risk again. The 2008 crash wiped out up to 50% of IRAs and 401ks. Can you afford to lose again? What if you could store IRA or 401k savings where you can see, touch, and hold it in your hands? With the Augusta Gold or Silver IRA, you transfer a portion of retirement savings into physical gold or silver coins you can actually see and get fast in any disaster. You get free shipping and insurance and zero management fees. Augusta Precious Metals is a gold IRA leader, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, with a 98% 5-star customer satisfaction rating at trustlink.org. Trust Augusta, where gold and silver have been the family business for over 40 years. Call 1-877-GOLD-IRA right now for your free guide to Augusta Gold IRAs. If you can't hold it, do you really own it?
Can't see me, I'm too sneaky. We see you, Shaq. No, really, we see you, Shaq. Still see you. Marco. Hello. Shock, you can't beat the Ring of security.
Watching over your home has never been easier with Ring. Learn more at ring.com.
Come on, 4 o'clock, ring that bell, ring that bell. The Dow down 407 points. Put it together with yesterday, you're talking about almost 1,200 points in 2 days. I'm Trace Gallagher. Your World with Neil Cavuto is next.
But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. Nobody read it. It's only hours old. Some people don't even know what it is. $1.3 trillion. It's the second largest ever.
Maybe it's a good thing he promised that he would never sign it again, because, man, oh man, did stocks take it on the chin, largely on the belief that Wall Street and Washington are not in sync when it comes to spending. The financial community worried that we're spending like crazy, worried about tariffs, worried about inconsistencies coming out of the White House on personnel. You name it, of course, people were selling on it. We should also point out that with the hit today, the Dow is down close to 6% on the week, a similar loss in the NASDAQ, near session lows on all of this. If you want to go back in time a little bit, the worst week and month since January 2016, the worst month since 2001, that is the worst March. And all this built on the belief here that we'd simply run up too far too fast, and they were using this as an excuse to sell. Anyone pounces on these sort of developments. But the fact that the president had to take to a TV announcement to say, I'm signing this spending measure, this $1.3 trillion spending measure, but with caveats here. Well, that was one of the things that prompted the president to say, I'm doing so with my hand over my nose. Obviously, Wall Street felt the same by day's end. We've got Fox team coverage of John Roberts with the president at the White House and Charles Payne on what happened at the corner of Wall and Broad. We begin with John Roberts. Very concerned, I would imagine, about a sell-off that escalated, huh, John?
Well, you know, the president was asked about that as he was leaving the diplomatic reception room after
the oddest signing ceremony for a bill I've ever seen. And the president was asked if he was concerned about the impact of tariffs on the stock market. The president said no, he's not concerned at all. The stock market is way up compared to where it was before he took office. And he said China will treat us fairly. Now to this signing bill. The president threatened a veto of it this morning after signing off on it on Wednesday and ultimately held his nose and did put pen to paper at some point, though not within view of the cameras, which was really interesting. I guess he did not want that enduring image of him signing a bill that he didn't like. What he found to like in the bill that made it worth signing was the increase of $60 billion for the military to some $700 billion this year, $716 next year. I know that James Mattis, the defense secretary, called him up this morning to say, you're not really thinking of vetoing this bill, are you? But when all was said and done, the president basically indicated this afternoon he had no choice to sign it. So the idea of vetoing it appeared to be some sort of a bluff. So I asked him why he put out that tweet this morning. Listen here.
We looked at it a veto. I looked very seriously at the veto. I was thinking about doing the veto, but because of the incredible gains that we've been able to make for the military, that overrode any of our thinking.
So what didn't the president like about the bill? He didn't like the fact that there was only $1.6 billion for the wall. He wanted a lot more money than that. And he was also railing against the fact that the Democrats didn't accept his proposal to extend DACA provisions through 2020, though about a month ago, a bipartisan group of senators did float a DACA fix that the White House said they didn't like at all. It was another excuse for amnesty, so they wrote that one out. The president also ripping the Senate filibuster rule that requires Democratic support and Democratic spending ideas to get a bill through, and he asked Congress for line item veto authority. Neil, how many presidents have asked Congress for line item veto authority? Remember, Bill Clinton got it in 1996, 1998. The Supreme Court said unconstitutional. So I don't know if the president has got the political capital to push through a constitutional amendment, but if he wants a line item veto, he's got to do that. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, between that and the filibuster thing, those are some uphill battles there. Real quickly on the tariff thing with the Chinese, they have promised to reciprocate, already labeling about 138 different goods, upwards of $3 billion worth of items that they could respond to. The president sort of dismissed it, said that he thinks that this won't be a big problem, but clearly markets are worried.
Clearly, the markets are worried about all of this. And the reason I think why the president doesn't think this will be a problem is he's been talking with Xi about trade, about ways to level the playing field. And this could be more of a negotiating tactic than anything. I mean, let's take a look at what happened with the tariffs on steel and aluminum at the 11th hour, just before they went into place. The president carved out a bunch of exemptions for our closest allies. I think, he goes in with a hard line here to the negotiating table, then tries to cut a deal. So I imagine there'll be a lot of calls back and forth between folks here at the White House and Beijing over the next week.
All right. Great job, as always, my friend John Roberts at the White House. All right, let's go to Charles Payne. That makes sense of what happened today. In case you're counting, with the drop-off today, the Dow technically below that February 9th closing low that represented, you remember, the official correction for these markets and then some. So correcting from even that. What the heck is going on here, Charles?
Neil, I got to tell you, it was another rough outing for the market. There was a valiant effort, though, early to spark a rally. But once that stalled, we saw selling quickly go from a trickle to an avalanche in the last 2 hours of trading, not unlike yesterday. Now, lots of reasons for selling. By the way, it includes signs from the bond market that keep flashing a potential recession could be around the corner. Now, these developments wrecked the financial stocks. Those are the worst hit in the last 2 days. And then there's also the Facebook fiasco. The biggest loser of the week saw things get worse. This after the House Energy and Commerce Committee officially requested that company founder Mark Zuckerberg make the trip to Capitol Hill to testify.